everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Friends Per Second podcast. I am your host for this week, Lucy James, and joining me is Gerard Khalil, aka The Completionist.
Yeah, that's me.
It's a him. We got Jake Baldino from...
I'm a now Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt.
He's a Chris Pratt. We've also got Jake Baldino from Game Ranks. Did you just hit the hot dog there? What happened?
I got excited. I hit the table. I knocked everything over. So
nice.
Just disaster as usual.
We are off to an excellent start.
Oh yeah.
It's a disaster pod. It's fine. It's the weekend. We can be excited. We can do all this kind of nonsense. And obviously, we are hitched up on his channel. You know him. You love him. Ralph, aka Skull.
I do not think they love him. I do definitely think that's a bit of a stretch too far, but here I am regardless. We're still keeping on. Hello.
We have a packed show, so judging by if you have seen the title and or thumbnail, depending on what we go with, you'll see that we have the lovely Geoff Keighley on. Ralph and I chatted to him about all things Game Awards, Gamescom, Summer Game Fest, all of the games.
That was fun. Can I say as well, I was actually I was nervous before that. Were you nervous? I don't know why, but I was just nervous. So I was like, oh, Geoff Keighley, I hope I don't screw this up, No, I really was.
I don't get nervous before interviews anymore.
Sure.
Just because pure desensitization, because I talk to so many people. But Geoff is also you'll see in the interview, he's just so used to the kind of back and forth, and he's really good value, and so I really enjoyed chatting to him. I think it was a
good interview. I was really.
You guys did great.
He definitely said some interesting things. He didn't hold back on some of his takes on, particularly on E3. He has thoughts.
Get ready to share it all over the internet, everyone, because he goes off the rails.
Buckle up. No, you guys did a great job. I'm very proud. I wish I could be there as the resident. I would say I'm the Geoff Keighley fanboy here. I enjoyed watching you guys chat. Good shit.
It's cool.
Mate. Although we were talking just before we started recording about, things that keep you up at night as content creators, breaking embargo is a big one. My newfound fear is accidentally hitting live and accidentally just be streaming myself.
Big time.
But my other one now that will keep me awake at night is the fact that I started the interview with Geoff by going, he's one of the infinity stones of the games industry.
That's right. I was like, where are you going with this, Lucy?
It made sense in my head.
Is he the stone or the gauntlet? Is he the gauntlet?
He's probably the gauntlet at this point.
And then he actually he went with it at the end, actually, which you'll see at the end of the interview. He really went with the whole reference. So
the best part is that he goes, "Oh, what are the other stones you got?" And you guys are like, Tamor,
Susie,
Tamor and Susie. And I'm like, but we got big dreams. There's lots of stones coming. Okay, there's lots of stones going to be in that gauntlet one day.
We're at the Avengers 2012, and then we'll get to Infinity War. Just give us a minute. But it was so fun. We're also going to be talking about what we've been playing. You all have a Steam Deck. I don't. It's becoming...
Ready.
I'm getting...
Always.
I'm becoming victimized on the GameSpot After Dark podcast because I went through last week and I noticed one of the timestamps was just Lucy doesn't have a Steam Deck.
Yes, I'm adding that as an item on the all future episodes now as well in the run sheet. It's just that
second class gamer.
Lucy does not have a Steam Deck.
Wait, can I ask, when is I remember he's seeing some headline recently, which is like everyone that has an order now has a date. Is that a thing or not? Do you have a date or not?
I got pushed to Q4.
Oh shit.
No.
Okay.
The crazy thing is that I was Q1 of next year and I got pushed to just a date. So I don't know how that happened.
Well,
it's very weird.
There you go.
Maybe when I'm driving home for Christmas, I don't drive, and also it would be a flight. Maybe.
I am.
Maybe.
I am behind the scenes chatting to Lawrence Yang, who is the Valve Steam Deck guy, actually, and I'm trying to get him on the podcast.
Can you put in a good word?
The reason I'm trying to get him on the podcast is so I can be like, listen, where the fuck is Lucy's Steam Deck right now? Come on, man. We want to hold his feet to the fire on that one. So Lawrence, just put yourself on notice, man. That's what's coming.
Pay the piper, Lawrence. Come on, buddy.
That's right. That's right.
Does Ralph, did you drop yours yet? Steam Link.
Say again, Lucy. Sorry.
I set up Steam Link so I could get the feeling of playing my PC games on my TV.
That's sad.
Or like up my couch.
That's very sad. That's cute. I haven't dropped my Steam Deck yet. No, I'm so terrified because at least you are in the States, so you could get yours repaired if something happened. Not if you drop it, obviously. Well, actually, you can get it repaired, but you can't get it warranty replaced. But if I fuck my Steam Deck, it's fucked, full stop. Because in Australia, it's not here yet, which means that's it. So
you have like an illegal Steam Deck.
Yeah, well, no, I got sent mine from Valve, so like direct.
Illegal.
Right, so they're like, good luck.
Yeah. Godspeed, you know? Maybe I could fly to New Zealand, though, to Gabe's house and just be like, I'll be like, dude, I dropped my stick. Can you fix it for me? And he's pretty chill. I think he'd probably say yes. Like, he's pretty
Does
relaxed.
he still live in New Zealand, Lord Gabe?
I believe so.
I like to picture it like it's like remember like the beginning of Skyfall where Bond like gets shot and then he washes up on a beach and then just lives there for a couple years drinking tequila like in a hut with a woman. I like to imagine that's what Gabe Newell is doing in New Zealand. I've also never been to New Zealand. I don't know what it's like. I just assume it's a beach and like.
I thought you were about to say, and I've never seen Skyfall, but I just imagine that's what it's like.
I think he lives. I think he has some super yacht down there. Doesn't he have like some super yacht that he uses to like go wherever he pleases?
Is he a yacht guy? Sorry,
I think so.
Well,
he probably is. So
look, I just like to think that you kind of go into the hallowed halls of Gabe Newell's house, and he's just sat on a throne of fucking Steam Decks. Like he doesn't give a shit anymore.
And Lucy's like, "Can I have one?" And he just says at you, and he says quietly, "No." Just very quietly.
Before we start, I want to take a step back. Lucy, you said that you wake up in fear about breaking embargo. That's like a real fear that we have as
I don't think I've ever
content
done
creators. I almost did it for Nintendo one time, and it was the most heartbreaking moment of my life. I'm so glad I was paying attention. And I think I told this story to you guys privately one time, but it was on our rehearsal podcasts. Nintendo flew me out to San Francisco to see the release surprise trailer of Cloud in Super Smash Brothers.
Oh, sick.
And it was me and one other YouTuber, and it was a huge surprise. They knew I was a Final Fantasy fan. I got to record like a reaction video and everything. I got it approved. I was so excited. And I was working on a project and I had to be on the road. So I set it to release at a specific time on YouTube through the auto scheduler.
Oh God! I'm getting stressed out hearing this story already. Like I legitimately am feeling anxiety right now just going through this. The thought of accidentally spoiling Cloud reveal. Oh my God! I can't.
I'm driving up the freeway, and because I'm an irresponsible human being, I have YouTube on my phone with Direct ready to go, thinking, okay, 2:00's when it's going to start. That's when it should start. I'm at 2:00 and it hadn't started yet, right?
Oh boy.
It's because it's supposed to be later on.
Oh,
and I was like, oh, okay. I did the math check. I was about maybe 45 minutes away from leaking Cloud to the whole entire world. I pulled off the freeway, almost crashed my car, and I was in the area where there was no reception, and I couldn't call or use my phone. I was struggling to get it to work. I got in my car and just kept driving on the freeway. Eventually got enough reception, pulled over, couldn't use my phone as a proper phone. So I just went to the YouTube app and I deleted the video. And then I called my editor and said, re-upload the video when the announcements start. And I avoided it like the plague. But I still have nightmare sweats about that. I still think about that at least once or twice a week. It's a nightmare that I have.
I picture that going down like a Breaking Bad episode, like you're in the heat on the side of the freeway freaking out, and like you throw your phone and it's just like all dramatic. Oh God!
Oh,
Nintendo's lawyers would have completely ended you. That would
be here.
Man.
You wouldn't be here now.
Not only
they would take your gold fillings out of your teeth.
Not only that, the FGC, the Smash community, the Nintendo community, I would not be here on this planet anymore. I would have left the games industry. I wouldn't have met any of you. I would have like just gone to a desert house and just disappeared.
Yeah.
The completionist.
Like the beginning of Skyfall. Sipping tequila on the beach.
That's right.
No tequila. But Budweiser's the only thing I could probably afford at that point.
Sure.
Yeah.
Penniless.
Bud Light.
Well, now I'm gonna have nightmares about that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
no.
let us know. Let us know your irrational fears in the comments below.
Yeah, what are
Send them to
what are
contact at friends per second.
Yeah, what are your rational fears in the comments below? Let us know. What's your trauma bonding like?
Honestly, like gaming fears. There's like, I don't know, losing saves, losing. A friend of mine lost when he migrated his old Switch to an OLED. He lost like all of his Animal Crossing shit. So, you know, stranger things have happened. You know, you could lose.
Yeah, for sure.
But we should get into the meat of this week's episode. Obviously, we have the interview with Geoff coming up. We also asked you a few weeks ago for some questions, so we'll be going through those.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Get to know us.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. But we wanted to start this week's episode by talking a little bit about what's been going on with Bungie recently, in particular, the kind of abuse, the online harassment that a lot of the Bungie staff members have been on the tail end of, the receiving end of, and the steps that Bungie are kind of having to take, and why is it that gaming seems to have this problem, whereas other mediums don't have it the same way. Ralph, as the Destiny boy, the Bungie boy, I'm going to throw to you to give us a better overview of the whole situation.
Yes, Bungie. Yes. Well, it's been tough because obviously Bungie is a big studio and they make a big popular game. And so that's obviously going to invite lots of criticism and whatever else. And that's perfectly natural, obviously, you know, like it's, and Bungie are fine with that as well. And they're okay with people having hot takes on their game and, you know, they're cool with that. But I think what they've really pushed back on recently is where people cross the line into not only what you call toxicity, but like outright harassment. So they've one person recently has been running their mouth talking about how they're going to burn down Bungie HQ and how they have recently moved into the same area as one developer. And they said that this person is not safe because now they live in the same area. He said that in a sort of threatening sort of way. Mm. And so Bungie's like, and plus this person was also selling cheats on some cheat forum and doing a whole bunch of other stuff. So Bungie are like, you know what? Fuck you. We're going to sue you. And so they brought suit against this guy, and that is now happening, right? So to be clear, there's a bunch of stuff that he's done. I suspect that the lawsuit is centered on the sales of cheats because Bungie are taking a number of cheat makers and distributors to task right now. But they're also throwing in, as I mentioned, the fact this guy is abusive and threatening to Bungie staff. Related to that is another instance where there was a creator by the name of Amaze, and he did like a promo video in collaboration with Bungie. This content creator is African American, and when this video went up, Bungie staff members, like the Bungie staff members who posted this video, started getting really, really racist phone calls and messages from this person who was just saying terrible, unspeakable things. And was also being like, and these numbers were unlisted, by the way. These weren't publicly listed, you know, community numbers or whatever, but calling the front desk at Bungie. This was like their personal cells. And this person was like delivering pizza to this person's, to the developer's house. So that means that this person knew where these developers lived. And, you know, if you send someone a pizza to their house, like that's very threatening in its own way.
Not because pizza. That's
not because pizza itself is threatening. Don't get me wrong, but it's basically like, hey, I know where you live, and that's fucking chilling. So Bungie has worked to unmask this guy, because this guy was sending these texts from like a, what do you call it? Like a burner. A burner, essentially, right? And so they've found the identity of this person, and they're also they're working with law enforcement around this guy. And there's no update on what is going to happen on that yet, but that's happening in the background. So yeah, man, like Bungie staff have really been put through it lately. I know once their community manager has also taken time off recently because of the toll that this sort of harassment has taken on him. And I understand that some other Bungie developers have done something similar in the past. They've also said, as a result of all of this, that they're kind of going to step back temporarily from engaging the community in the same way that they used to, because they want to be able to build some mechanisms to keep their staff safe. You know, they were very clear that this is not a punishment. This is not Bungie being like, oh, you've been naughty, so now we're going to take away rights. It's literally like, them stepping back and saying, well, first we need to make sure our staff are safe, and then we can continue the conversation, right?
Yeah.
Which I think is more than fair, obviously. So that's kind of the background to what's going on over at Bungie right now. Which
Ralph, can I ask you a question?
Please.
Not that I don't think anyone should ever receive unsolicited harassment or anything like that. You should be responsible, everyone. Don't do that kind of stuff. It's not cool. If you wouldn't want to be treated that way, why would you do it to others? But did Bungie do anything recently that would warrant this kind of behavior? Or is this always kind of, this is me asking ignorantly, because I wasn't an original Halo guy. I'm not a Destiny guy. Like, did they do something?
The Gjallarhorn? Did they?
Yeah, like what?
Well, they announced they're nerfing Gjallarhorn is getting nerfed soon. Right? And actually, they did. We're not going to get into the Gjallarhorn change, the recent Gjallarhorn. But look, I get the thrust of your question, and if you're asking, did Bungie make some gigantic change or do some big thing that might upset the community at large? No, they haven't. They've just been doing their thing. It's been fine, right? It's literally a case of, in that specific example with that guy, that content creator Amaze, they just put up an ad with this guy. It was a collaboration, and then that's how it went down. So it's actually been pretty chill on the Destiny community front. I've definitely seen it been pretty rocky over the years, very rocky in fact. But right now it's pretty relaxed. I would say it's calm seas right now.
Yeah,
fascinating.
It's awful because I mean, Bungie from the outside looking in, as someone who is not really a Destiny fan, but follows, obviously I know a bunch of people who work at Bungie. They are kind of always at the forefront when things happen for social justice or change, like they'll speak up about abortion rights or LGBTQ plus members of staff, like wanting to feel safe and included, and they seem to have a very progressive culture, I would say. And it's just very, I don't know, like they should not be on the receiving end of any of this, but it is very nice to see, because I feel like community management in general is a very thankless job. You're getting that shouted out by the internet, and then you have to kind of sieve that information into what is useful criticism and feedback for the team, but also what's noise. You'll get insults thrown at you, and so to see Bungie, actively like taking a step back to ensure the safety of their employees is fantastic. But it's like, Bungie seemed to be a company that talks to their community a lot, and like, you have other studios very similar, like Warframe, for example, and it just feels like when you see this kind of vitriol come to a breaking point, it's like, what else can people do? Like, is community management, as we know it, gonna have to completely change because the anonymity that the internet offers is just gonna ruin the relationship pretty much for everyone? Do you think like companies like Bungie are gonna have to take a step back and be a little bit more, guarded and reserved when talking to their communities?
I mean, it really got me thinking about, well, like community, like what are you really getting by speaking to your community? And like, I don't mean that in some kind of coy way, like oh well, community sucks, let's just forget it, because I don't think that at all. But it really actually got me like thinking intellectually about like, well, when Bungie are speaking to their community, because right now they're stepping back from that engagement, okay? And it's like, well, what are they going to lose as a result of that? Is the game going to be any worse as a result of that? I don't think so, right? Because Bungie are always listening. All developers are generally listening to their players, right? And they're on Reddit and they're on Twitter and whatever else, they see it. But that presenting of their staff as this kind of like, here we are, talk to us, give us your opinions, that's that dialogue thing. I don't know how much that necessarily really adds to the game. You know what I mean? And like, I don't know. Like, I still think Destiny would be a great game if it adopted like a Nintendo model where they don't fucking care about community. They don't give a shit. They don't want to have a conversation with their players. That's right. You want to have a conversation with us, speak to our lawyers, And that's not what I would propose, because I do like that Bungie have that dialogue. Like, I do like that they reach out. But I guess, as I said, it did get me thinking about like, well, let's just imagine a hypothetical where all of that disappeared. What's actually lost? And I don't know, to be honest with you. I'm not sure. I really don't know.
Would the hypothetical be essentially these companies would still look and look at feedback, but it wouldn't necessarily be a two-way conversation, right? Is that what you're saying?
It's like I'm sure Christopher Nolan is out there looking at what's going on in his industry, and he's looking at what the fans are saying about his work. But he's not on Twitter being like, "Hey guys, what do you want me to make next?" You know what I mean? Like, he's just doing his thing.
Christopher Nolan has a Finsta. You know,
I don't. What's a Finsta?
Like it's a fake Instagram account where he's. I don't know.
Oh, right.
Nolan Lover 69.
Sure.
It's just crowdsourcing from there.
It's just a letterboxed account for film people. It's a letterboxed account straight up.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting point too, because it's like on the more product side, which video games are like physical things you're buying sometimes. You don't have Apple, like you don't have Tim Cook like arguing with people online. Like there's not a debate about their products necessarily. So it's a weird spot with how video games are. I do think why video games are unique and why they do this is because maybe it's because they had a different upbringing. If you think about like, I just can't help but think about like, kids writing it like Jeff in the interview we're going to see Jeff talked about writing in to his favorite game developer like, hey, how did you guys make this game? And they write back. There was the old Nintendo hotline. There was the early days of Doom and how games were just passed around. So it's almost like it was because it started as this grassroots thing that's kind of been integrated into the newer communication pipeline / business model. Whether or not that's good long term, I don't know, but I think that for me at least explains like how it is here right now.
Yeah, gaming wasn't necessarily accepted by everyone else, and so you had to form your own community and kind of build each other up that way, right? In order to be taken quote unquote seriously. It's different. Whereas other like I don't know, how would you even I don't know. Well, it feels like video games at least are a little bit more of an endearing medium because you play it, like you experience things in a different way, but it also feels like they kind of intertwine with each other a lot more, I guess. I don't know. Film for me seems like, maybe this is just the bizarre way that my brain works, but like I pinpoint and I tack a film to a place and a time. Whereas with gaming, it feels a little bit more ephemeral, and those experiences, like Overwatch came out in 2016, I'm still playing and talking about it in 2022. Whereas Lord of the Rings: The Fellowship of the Ring came out in 2001. It's like, that's who I was in 2001, and that was how I enjoyed that film back then. I don't know if that's just how I process pieces of media, but
no, that's a good point. I never thought of it that way, actually. Yeah,
I'm curious too, though, because I think the biggest elephant in this room is social media and the ability to be so accessible, right? I think all of us are in this industry, have been in this for a while. We have large followings online and people watch our content and they dig what we put out. But, it's not like suddenly social media appeared. We've been in an era where we've had at least 2 or 3 decades of social media to think about, right? Like not 3, obviously, but Zynga and MySpace and LiveJournal and those outlets to express yourself existed when we were 10, 11, 12, 13 years old.
Club Penguin, baby. Habba Hotel, RuneScape.
Club Penguin.
I will have spent over half my life on social media.
Right.
At this point, thinking about it that way.
Whereas there are people now who have lived their whole life with social media and they don't know a world without it. And that ability for understanding how important social media is obviously important to the business. There is value in paying a maze to make a commercial in conjunction with Bungie and Destiny. There is value in me appearing in Nintendo commercials to promote, a Zelda game, right? There's value there. At the same time, there also is the value aspect that everyone thinks is that I have a voice and my voice means something. And how loud I bark, how loud I use that voice determines the effectiveness of it. And I think that's the scariest part, because then it's just a bunch of people yelling and screaming and making noise, and no one, it's not about listening anymore. It's just about attacking and exploding. And we weren't designed for this. None of this was designed for this. We're just retroactively justifying it because it's making money and it's a part of our accepted culture. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, what's like one example you guys can think of where community engagement has manifestly improved a video game? Like tangibly, manifestly improved.
I mean, the mod community. You know, like they got together and fixed Dark Souls. They, you know, games that have come out like full.
But that's an interesting example because that was very much like FromSoft don't talk to those guys. Like that's just like the wall is up with FromSoft. How, like, you know, Miyazaki is not like, hey, what do you guys think I should? How many heads should this dragon have? Should I have 3 or 4 heads? What do you think about that? You know.
5. You're spicy. Okay.
But like, but I think that's such an interesting example to bring up because I think FromSoft is just like, let's just make a really fucking cool game that we want to make, and then everyone can just play it. You know what I mean? Like, unless there's a community management or engagement angle with FromSoft that I'm not aware of, but I understand them to be quite just, we're just making our own thing, and that works fine. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. Am I wrong about that?
No, I think you're right, but I think you know, I think one example that I think which is more in line with the question you were asking is when is a community you know, actively changed a game and made it better. I would say the Sims 4 community, like when the Sims 4 launched, compared to previous versions, even base game, it was not as full of features as it should have been. Like toddlers were missing, swimming pools were missing, and people were not happy with that game for a long time. But the Sims community team is very, you know, they do streams, they talk about upcoming changes and new content and stuff. But one of the big sticking points was skin tones, and for a long time it was not representative, and that's where the community kind of came in. And like, shout out to X Mira Mira here. She made a pack as custom content. And then it got picked up in the community being like, EA, why aren't you fucking doing this? Like, why is the community having to be the people who do this? And then I believe they worked together to actually get that in the game. And so that is, you know, the community seeing an issue with the game, taking, you know, speaking up about it and making the change, and then the community team bringing it to devs and like it getting implemented into the game.
Yeah.
But then you get, you know, there's that kind of stuff, and then you get like, so you get like the great things that community can bring, like, you know, raising money for people who are sick. There's people who role play, people who find friends. Like, there's so many great things that community can bring. But then there's this line where shit like Mass Effect 3 happens. Shit like I think wasn't it they sent a bunch of cupcakes to BioWare and they were really nervous about them, but like no one ate any of them because they thought they could be poisoned. And it's similar with the pizza being sent to Bungie, where it's like, it's a kind of vaguely threatening way of saying we know where you live, or, you know. And so doxing, that became common.
But I think that's
like tracking people on like people's family. That's the other thing. Like, why would you fucking reach out to developers' family?
I think that's crossing over into a different thing, which is that I think there is what we call community. And I think there's a discussion to be had about what is the benefit of fostering and engaging that community in the creative design and maintenance of video games. And then there are your nut jobs who I think that's a very separate thing, because you know, they're still going to be like... But it
gets bundled in together with the same word, community.
Well, yes, it does, like, I think.
Just
but I think it is... Yeah, but I think it is totally... I think it's vital to unpack those things, because I'm sure there are lots of FromSoft nuts who do weird things to, you know, to FromSoft and rock up at their HQ and stalk Miyazaki and find all that shit, you know what I mean?
I think you can actually just turn up to FromSoftware, by the way.
Probably.
I mean, a friend of mine did do that and got into the lobby.
No way, right.
Yeah,
nice.
They just took a picture with the fucking statue.
Sure. But yeah, I do think it's vital to keep those things separate. And obviously, I just think that you're always going, unfortunately, on the internet, you are always going to have sickos who are going to want to make people's lives miserable because for a variety of reasons, sadly. And all you can really do then is protect your own staff, which I think is what Bungie is doing. And I like that they're talking about this in this way. I think it raises awareness for this sort of stuff, because, you know, there's other stuff going on at Bungie as well they haven't spoken about. I don't know what that is, by the way, but they allude to the fact that there are other examples. And if it's happening there, it's definitely happening elsewhere for sure, you know? And so I applaud that. But But like I said, that broader conversation about the utility of community, I think, is a really interesting one, given how different the approaches are across different developers and different publishers.
Yeah,
Like
I think it's interesting too, where it's like some can totally get by without doing anything. You know, like how you mentioned Nintendo. You know, there are some things that just try to remain like these monoliths, and sometimes it works out. It's the same thing too, like, not to like go off on a different tangent, but like, you know, if you're a content creator, you know, not every content creator 100%. Is like hyper online every day and like rotting their brain on Twitter. Sometimes they're just like, here's a video, I'm out. Goodbye. And it works out for them and it's fine. So it's really kind of like it's almost like if you set it up from the beginning one way, it can work that way. What I look at least as a positive from like a practicality sense is I would love to see the data behind things getting fixed. I think that's like honestly the most important thing about games, if you want to just boil it down as like product, fun thing I play with. Is it better to have a community and immediately get like slapped in the face with these things that need to be fixed? Is that better than just having a forum and a support ticket and going through those? I don't know. I think that would be interesting to see, like, if there is a real benefit. I think there is. I have nothing to back that up other than feeling. It's good to just have a community and be like, this gun's broke, fix it. Okay, got it, no problem. Like, I think that's like the basic one-to-one benefit.
I mean, we definitely
have people evangelize for you as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that marketing angle. There's tremendous marketing benefit in community, because if you can foster it, then they do become, you know, yeah, you're right, evangelists. They become almost like a billboard for you and your game. Absolutely. So, but I think that's also a cynical reading. Like, I've definitely heard that interpretation of the word community, and yeah, it's true for sure. But I also believe that the people at game studios who are trying to foster community really care about it. Like, I don't think that they're sitting there mischief, like Machiavellian style, like, oh, how can I manipulate as many fools as possible, Cult of the Lamb style, recruiting people so you can churn and burn them. I think these people really care, you know, and I have not met any community manager or interacted with any community manager who didn't feel legitimately passionate about their game, for sure.
Yeah. Gerard, what were you going to say?
I mean, I was going to say there are game companies that learned those lessons hard ways as well with their community, right? We saw what happened with No Man's Sky and how that evolved. And now that game is in an incredible spot, and people love to be like, who's playing No Man's Sky in 2022? But you pick it up and you're like, oh God, there's an insane amount of quality of life updates, and it works, and it feels like the game they promised, and that's crazy. And then there's Cyberpunk, where they really messed up. They deserve the criticism. And they're
too much. Yeah.
And they're atoning for their sins for it, right? It affected their whole company, their whole business model. It definitely waned the faith that their fan base had, and things like The Witcher 3 and the future Witcher properties. But it just feels like they're with this medium of technology where we're always plugged in 24/7. There is no way to win anymore. It's just, it's either it works or it doesn't. And that's the hardest part, because it's, again, nothing instigated this, right? Like, nothing instigated this whole Bungie thing. And yet it became such a vitriol thing that we're talking about. And it sucks. Like, it should just be like, I went to work today, 9 to 5, and I had a good day, instead of, my entire life was ruined because some guy online was attacking me. And that sucks, because we've been through that multiple times. I definitely have, but I just don't talk about it because it happens every day, and talking about it sucks because nothing comes of it. And that's like the secret truth behind it, right? Is how do you fix it? And it's kind of as you can.
Society, man.
We live in one.
That's it. Yeah.
One thing I thought about as well is like how much community transforms the way I play and interact with games, because I realize that every game that I experience is usually now through the prism of some sort of community. It's never in a vacuum. Like whenever a new game drops, like Saints Row's coming out, right? I'm immediately thinking, okay, well, how's this going down? And I'm seeing tweets, I'm seeing Reddit posts, I'm seeing comments in the trailers, I'm seeing like the general vibe around it all, and it colors my own view, right? And it really got me thinking, like, are there any games that I experience where I don't have any of that noise? And the only one is Clash Royale on mobile.
Oh, here we
which
go.
I play, which I have played, as I said to Jake, 6 years of it. And I have almost never engaged with any aspect of the community for that game. Like, I don't go on the subreddit, I don't watch YouTubers, whatever. And so it's such a different thing for me because there are parts of that game where I feel like, is this broken? That feels a bit overpowered, but is it? I don't know. I've got no idea because I have no points of calibration to tell me that it's broken. I'm like, Air Balloon seems fucked. Please nerf it, Supercell. But I don't know that it is. It's just that's my feeling. And when a new update comes, it's always a big surprise to me. I'm like, whoa, something new. I had no idea this was coming. I've got no idea what it is. Let's check it out. It's this totally different. I know I'm sounding ridiculous right now and talking about a mobile game, but it really is instructive for me because it's this totally different means of receiving and interacting with a video game that I don't get to have across any other video game that I play. And I like that a lot. It's cool. It's just, there's something about that is interesting to me.
Yeah. I guess before this chat's kind of rounding out, but like one thing that is happening, and it's in the TV space, but it's fucking fascinating. I don't know if you have seen what's happening with American Horror Story at the moment. A TV show I have not watched since like season 3. Still pretty big, but it's definitely on the decline. And a couple weeks ago, some of the all of the biggest fan accounts for American Horror Story wrote a fucking and posted this joint letter that basically said the company is not the TV company, FX, whoever, is not promoting this show anymore. They're expecting us to do it for free, and the show is not as good anymore. And so it is basically like this labor, this emotional labor they are putting on the fans, and we're not doing it anymore. All of the biggest American Horror Story Twitter accounts are just not posting about the new season at all. They're just fucking done.
So this is like their Declaration of Independence,
Yeah.
or their Martin Luther with the
They're
thesis
just
on the
like,
church.
I'm done.
Like, this is
their Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 lobby screenshot moment where like they're all like, I'm boycotting this, and then you are, and they go and watch their watch history, and all they're watching is American Horror Story.
But they're not
on repeat,
posting about it. They're not doing we mentioned the evangelizing bit, and like if you don't have those Twitter accounts, like who are the people making GIFs? Who are the people uploading videos of your game or whatever to YouTube? And it's like it's wild to see just how, you know, and you talked earlier about like what is the use of having a community, and it's like I think definitely like people being excited and finding each other and talking about your game or your movie or whatever is super important, but it's like how quickly it can turn if you don't take care of it. Like,
but like if that show, like I don't know anything about that show, by the way. I've never watched any of it, but I'm going to assume it's now shit, okay? Because if it's not doing well,
was it ever good?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I have no idea.
First season was good. Then there was
season 2 was pretty good.
No clue.
Asylum was pretty good.
Yeah.
So, you know, like Game of Thrones didn't need community management outreach initiative in seasons 1 through 4, but it probably did need it through seasons, 4 through 8. So I think if you're just making a good thing, it's just the community stuff kind of takes care of itself. And I think that's where Nintendo has really shined. Like the quality bar that they've maintained has allowed them to have this arrogance. It's a strong word. I don't mean it in a sense, but what I'm saying is that like that idea that we don't need to do all of that stuff, they don't. Realistically, they don't. They can just do it their own way because they've maintained a quality bar that allows people to trust in the quality of their stuff. And like, I don't know, Rockstar, man, that's another example.
Yeah.
Like that's a company that does not give a shit about its community at all, and they're just making money hand over fist and selling 5 million copies of GTA 5 a month, even though it's nearly 10 years old, because it's really good and the best at what it's doing. And so they're just like, we'll keep doing this, So yeah, that's
It's. Do you think there's a company that's got the balance? Go on.
Is there a company that has a balance? Warframe, which is who were they? Digital Extremes.
Digital Extremes.
Yeah, Digital Extreme.
Yeah.
They're really big in terms of their community stuff. They do a lot. They have a huge community team. They're really out there.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that's a balance per se in that it's not like they're doing a little bit of community stuff, but just kind of focusing on their own thing. They're really all in on the community angle. Not that that's bad, by the way. That's fine. But I'm just saying I wouldn't say that's like balanced.
The same goes for Dead by Daylight. They're like the game is 7 years old and they're still releasing updates, putting characters, balancing the game, taking away features, doing weekly or monthly events, quarterly events. Like and the community is still growing. There are content creators who focus specifically on competitive Dead by Daylight and stream only that game. And the community, the people who make the game, the developers are streaming it themselves because they love their product. Like it's a through and through thing. Is the community perfect? Absolutely not. But they're very aware of their community. They're very in tune. And I think they've used their feedback from their I think they're called the Whisperers is their ambassador program, where they basically have content creators and streamers in the highest quality that they trust to basically give them true and honest feedback. So it's kind of like letting the hardcore players who know what they're talking about and just come to the table and say, hey, here's what you should improve. And I think it's not necessarily a balance per se, but I definitely think they do a great job at listening to their audience that's constantly consuming their product.
Yeah. Any final thoughts from anyone before we throw over to Geoff?
I would just say that the whole thing is very much a thing of nuance on a thing that just does not see nuance at all. Does that make sense? It is something that requires finesse, and it is going on social media, which is something that does not take to any nuance or finesse, really.
Yeah. I mean, I make with Tam and Geoff over at Giant Bomb, we make the Very Online Show, and I've always been interested in internet culture. If you have not read So You've Been Publicly Shamed by Jon Ronson, please consider this my plea to go and do so, because it changes the way you think about social media. But the longer I spend on the internet, I genuinely think we as humans are not built for the internet.
Oh yeah,
I don't think we are able to process the sheer amount of information that we are that is on hand to us every single day. And I also don't think it is helping our interpersonal relationships at all.
That's true.
Yeah, at least on a scale. Yeah, I mean, I like you guys.
Is this interpersonal? Okay. I like you guys. I don't know what that word means, but
that's right.
I like you guys too.
Oh, you guys are all right.
I like you guys. But no, I just it's scary. I mean, and that's a huge generalization. It's, when you see people on TikTok, like, just posting an innocent video and then someone's immediate response is just to fucking attack them for it. That's what I'm talking about when I say interpersonal relationships. There's, like, this weird divide between seeing someone on a screen and someone in real life. And so...
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure.
Speaking of, let's throw over to our interview we conducted with Geoff Keighley that was done entirely virtually.
What a great throw. I love it.
Oh, throw it.
Continuing our goal to get all of the Infinity Stones of the games industry on this podcast, we are joined by the one and only Geoff Keighley. Geoff, welcome to Friends Per Second.
Thank you. It's good to be here. So how many stones do you have so far?
So we've had Susie, Sphere Hunter.
Yep.
We've had Timur Hussein. We had another guest. We've had more.
No, that was it so far.
That was it so far. We have a big list
dreams.
of guests.
We've
got big dreams.
There's a list, and we're definitely relying on you, Geoff, to get us that Hideo Kojima invite, that connection right there. So please, at the end of the episode, we will chat to you about that.
Well, I'm honored that you consider me one of the stones.
Hell yeah. Well, so I mean, this is going to be quite an all-encompassing chat. And I think one of the things, that people, when you talk to people who don't necessarily work in games, they always go, how did you get to where you are? And I think, everyone has their own story. But Geoff, what's your story? Because you've kind of been all around, and now you've ended up in this amazing place as kind of like the Game Awards, Summer Game Fest, and now obviously Gamescom Opening Night Live.
Yeah, I mean, it's a somewhat long story, I guess, since I've been doing it for 30 years. But it started. Look, I mean, the Cliff's Notes version of it is I started playing a lot of games when I was a kid. My parents were great about like buying my brother and I like a lot of computers and stuff when I was young. I like learned to type before I learned to write. I was like typing lessons when I was like 4 years old or something, and I just like was always kind of there computer literate. I started playing a lot of the old adventure games. I really fell in love with like the old Sierra LucasArts adventure games. And one day I wrote a letter to Sierra Online in the mail and sent it out when I was 12 years old saying, hey, I love your games. I want to know more about how you make them. Never expected to get any response, but they actually wrote me a letter back 2 weeks later saying, hey, Jeff, that's awesome. You love our games. Would you be interested in being one of our beta testers for some of our upcoming adventure games? So first game I beta tested was a game called EcoQuest 2, The Search for Cetus, which was a adventure game. And I worked on, as a volunteer when I was in high school, basically tested all these games. So did that. Got to really know and appreciate a lot of the developers behind the games and file bugs. But I was also on CompuServe at the time, one of the early internet services. And when the games finally came out, because I had played through them, I knew all the hints and tips and tricks to guide people through. So I was often on the forums, dropping knowledge on how to solve a lot of these games. And from there, an editor of a gaming magazine called Computer Games Strategy Plus noticed my posts and sent me an email on CompuServe saying, hey, it seems like you know a lot about games. Would you like to write for our magazine? He had no idea I was 13 years old at the time, but I wrote my first preview of a game when I was 13, and it was a preview of Sim Farm by Will Wright. And the story goes on from there.
Child labor. That's the start of it. That's where it all began. Child labor.
Yeah.
Love it. Fantastic.
Were you paid for the magazine, though?
Sorry? What?
You were paid for the magazine, though.
Yes, I was. Yeah, I mean, I think I made $50 or something like that. It was like a very small amount of money. But the thing was, what I always say about that was that it was kind of great because I was a kid in high school, so I didn't really need to make that much money. Like, I didn't have to make a full career out of it. So I was totally happy just writing some freelance articles, and I got to go down to like id Software in 1993, right when they were shipping Doom, and hang out with them and just do like cool stuff like that as part of this sort of magazine writing job. So yeah, it was great. I mean, I never had a summer job because like I've never had a job outside the gaming industry, right? I've never like worked for anyone else. I never had to go, work at a restaurant or a bar or anything. Like I was just lucky. I've always done gaming stuff, but it was the right amount of stuff at the right time. So I wasn't like coming out of college trying to be a freelance writer and figure out how to make the ends work. I was just lucky. So yeah, then I mean, I would have paid people probably for the honor of getting to do some of the stuff I did. But yes, I did get paid for my reviews.
I was gonna say, so like you got those roles early on in your career because you were good at games, you knew them, you understood them. As your career has grown, like what else do you think has made you successful in kind of changing from being in the more journalist space to doing things like the Game Awards and Summer Game Fest?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think I've been really lucky that I think early on I fell in love with the idea of like celebrating the developers behind the games, not just the games. And all throughout high school and college, like I spent a lot of time visiting developers and writing about them. And I did something in college with GameSpot called Behind the Games, which was like a making of story. I did like one on the making of like the original Half-Life in 1997 at Valve and things like that. So I was focused on something different than just writing previews and reviews of games. I was much more interested in like longer form sort of journalism and stories about the people behind the games, which I think just differentiated me. I always give that advice to people when they kind of want to start out as a writer or someone covering games. It's like, find your own unique angle on things, which I think just helps you stand out versus just being another person who can write a review of a video game. So that helped. And then, I think I've been lucky that my career has just sort of evolved into new mediums kind of at the right time. Like I was writing for gaming magazines all throughout high school and college. And then right out of college, I got lucky. I got a break to start writing for like Entertainment Weekly and Time Magazine. And that was like right when I was graduating college. I remember I was actually at E3, and an editor from Time came up to me and said, hey, would you be interested in like writing for our magazine? And that was like a big deal for me because I was graduating college. I was going to go to law school. And then I like started to get all of a sudden all these opportunities to do like bigger stories. I was like, oh, maybe I'll do this for a little bit. And then after that, I started to get into like on camera stuff when Victor Lucas, who Canadian guy who started the Electric Playground, the first sort of video game television show, asked me to sort of host on camera. And that was shortly after college too. So I just kind of moved from like print to mainstream print to video stuff, then to television, and then to online. So I've just been lucky that like it hasn't really been a master plan. I've just sort of been able to kind of evolve with sort of these new mediums. And I think that's part of why I've been successful, is just I haven't kept doing the same thing. I'm always thinking about like what the next thing is.
But I think as well, you also kind of helped create a new medium in a sense. And I think the Game Awards is kind of a new medium-ish. I mean, there were Game Awards before that were interesting. You go back and look at clips of those and you're like, whoa, I can't believe that's how we used to do this. But I think you sort of have formalized that thing with the Game Awards over the last few years. I'm really interested to know how that sort of exactly came about. Like, what was the journey towards what we know as today as the Game Awards?
Yeah, I mean, I have a long history of working on video game award shows. So I worked on the first video game award show I worked on was in 1994, when I was, I think, like 12 years old or something. It was called Cybermania 94, which was an award show for TBS that just a family friend in Toronto was the guy producing it. So I got to write all the narration for the nominee packages that were read by William Shatner. So like Doom was a nominee that year, and Mortal Kombat, and
I had a paper.
Shatner read this? What?
Yeah, you were like 12, 13. I had a paper round when I was 12, 13. Oh my God.
Like, I got lucky. So I was just like, my dad was like, oh yeah, my son like really knows video games. Should talk to him. So yeah, I work with them. So I got to go down to LA to that award show. It was at Universal Studios, and it was hosted by the late great Leslie Nielsen from The Naked Gun and Jonathan Taylor Thomas from Home Improvement. And it was like this fun, crazy night where I got to go to this show and like wear a little tuxedo. And actually it made a big impact on me because I was there and there was like Jay Wilbur from id accepting for Doom, or Ed Boon accepting for Mortal Kombat. And as a young kid, I thought it was like so cool that my passion and hobby had sort of become this big sort of Hollywood moment and felt really special and important. And it was cool. My dad went with me, and I thought he thought it was pretty cool and interesting. So yeah, that was the first award show I worked on when I was a young kid. And then there wasn't a Cybermania 95. Didn't work out for them. But
William Shatner wasn't enough.
That was always in the back of my head of like, that was cool that games had this big moment in time. And, you know, when I was growing up, like the Oscars were a big deal in my family. My parents are both members of the Academy and in the film industry. So it's like I was always kind of paying attention to that. And I always wondered like when were games going to get that? And so I would be like, I got involved in the Spike Video Game Awards when they started back in 2003 and kind of worked on those for many years, right? And then I also worked at G4 when they had the G4 Award. So I kind of been involved in various forms of video game awards for many years. And honestly, like when I was at MTV and Spike, learned how to make a big budget, you know, award show. And yeah, the show is never exactly what I wanted it to be, but it was still cool that they were investing tons of money in making this show, and I learned a lot about it. But I think to answer your question, in 2013, we did kind of this online version of the VGAs called VGX, which you remember Joel McHale and I famously hosted.
Oh yeah,
that's where like No Man's Sky was revealed for the first time, and there was some cool stuff with that. We had a music of Grand Theft Auto concert, but that was sort of a frustrating experience to do this online show that just it didn't work, and it wasn't really what I wanted to do. And I think coming out of that, I had a decision. It was like, was I going to keep trying to do that, or was I going to maybe go off and do my own thing? And I just made a bet on myself in 2014 to say, hey, after doing all these award shows for, you know, decades, really, I think it's time to bet on myself and see, could I kind of build, you know, what I thought would be kind of a new or best version of this, stream it online and not have to work through a television network where there are just so many other rules and restrictions and politics to it. So I went to all the gaming companies and said, hey, would you support me if I wanted to go off on my own and build something for Twitch and YouTube? And we started in 2014 with the Game Awards. It's crazy. This is like the 9th year of the show. So it's been big. And yeah, we're, you know, I'm honored to sort of have it in the position it's in. And I think, you know, through the pandemic, it was, I think, strengthened because we kept doing the show every year. I'm so thankful that like we were able to do it in 2020 and 2021. And of course, we'll be back to kind of the full scale show this year. But yeah, I mean, I think it came from a passion of caring about developers and the industry and those impressions I had of being in Cybermania 94 and how it was so cool to have this event. So yeah, I just was lucky enough to get to build it and have really the support of everyone in the industry to build it. And I think that's why a lot of people ask like, well, how are you able to do it? Or how do you get all these announcements and stuff? And it's like, cause I've known these people for, you know, decades, right? And a lot of the, you know, you guys know this, a lot of people that build the games today are the same people that were building them 10, 20, 30 years ago. So, I've known those guys that long, and I think that helps me be able to do what I do. So long-winded answer, but yeah, I've been doing award shows for a while.
Sure.
That's a big question.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I was going to say, so the Game Awards is pretty uniquely positioned because you kind of have the awards part of it where you are looking back and celebrating the games that have released, but you also look forward, you get announcers and new trailers, and some people kind of, I don't know, not take umbrage, but kind of think, it should be about the games that are already out. They take umbrage. What do you
The game
what do you say?
advertisements, I think they call it.
That's
or
right.
Like
the game ads. Yep. Yeah, that's the one.
Oh yeah.
What do you think about people who say that?
Oh, look, I mean, I'm used to it. I think, first of all, I will say, like, spoiler alert, the show is like an advertisement for games, right? I mean, I think it should be something that like celebrates games, and like, spoiler alert, E3 is one big advertisement for games. The Xbox showcase is a big 90-minute ad for Xbox, right? And so, yeah, I mean, that's like, there's no qualms about that. I think and the same thing, like when when I was a kid, like I loved going to the movies, and I would like sit there through the trailers. It was one of my favorite parts of the show, right? It was like all the marketing at the beginning because you wanted to see the trailers. So I don't think that's a bad thing. There's always going to be this eternal sort of, struggle, dialectic between kind of like the awards and the premieres, and like what's the right balance between those things. And yes, there's some purists, as you said, Lucy, that think the Game Awards should just be awards. And there are other people that just want to see announcements, right? And they don't care about the awards. When I poll people on Twitter or other places and you ask the audience, like most people tune into the show to see the announcements. And that's why, like we have 85 million, live streams last year of the show, because a lot of people want, we have a reputation of getting the announcements there. What I will say is, because we have those announcements, we are the most watched awards about games, right? So people come in for the awards, but then they are coming for the announcements, but because they're there, then the awards get seen by tens of millions of people, and these developers get recognized in front of a lot of people. And there are other awards out there, they're just not seen by even a sliver of the number of people that watch the Game Awards. So I think the balance between the two, I think, is really important to have those, but we'll always never get it perfectly right in terms of, which way the pendulum swings. And also, as you said, everyone has a different opinion of sort of how that fits together. So, I don't know. I think it's something we're conscious of and we think about. And I totally, after doing these award shows for as many decades as I have very thick skin for all the sort of feedback and commentary on it. What I'll say is award shows, people rarely love award shows. Like no one ever's like, the Grammys were awesome this year, or like, wow, the Oscars were incredible. It's like people suffer through these things. And, I think generally the Game Awards, people generally and they have, they're very passionate, they care about it because it represents our medium. So I would take all the feedback in, but the model works pretty well. So no, we're not going to radically, decide, hey, we're no longer doing world premieres at the show.
Sure. I think one thing coming back to what you said, like 94, and you had William Shatner, and who else was it? Like it was Leslie Nielsen and all this sort of thing. I think the video games industry has often tried to bring celebrities from outside of the world of video games into the world of video games for a variety of reasons. I think part of that is this idea of legitimacy, as though the games industry might look towards something like Hollywood and think, well, that's what we want to be. Do you think that's what we've done in the past? Do you think we're still doing that now? Do you think the video games industry has moved past that phase and is confident to stand on its own without the aid of Hollywood celebrity? Or do you think we're still a little bit reliant on that?
Well, sure. I think there's a little bit of that. I think it's gotten better. We think about that a lot with our show, because it's another, thing people slight is like, why don't you just have all developers on stage? Why do you need these celebrities? It's like, the Oscars don't need to have, video game designers come to legitimize their show. So why do you need to have, these people come to your show? I would say that, I think when I was at the Spike years, that was legendary, of sort of just like booking the cast of the Jersey Shore to come out because, that's the hot new show, right? And I think we're pretty deliberate with Game Awards of like, if people are there, they're there for a reason because they care about games or they're in a game. And the other thing that's happening now is that there's so many of these adaptations of games, right? So like Ben Schwartz and Jim Carrey last year were in the Sonic movie, which was like really cool. And, the Last of Us series is coming out. There's the Mario movie. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff which involves celebrity, but in like a really legitimate way. Like last year we had Keanu and Carrie Ann for The Matrix, but they were doing that cool Unreal Engine demo that came out. So yeah, I think
we're gonna see Chris Pratt then this year at the Game Awards. That we're gonna see him hosting Chris Pratt.
Oh God, well, we'll see. But yeah, the Mario movie is coming out, and like I don't know. I haven't seen anything on that movie, right? So maybe it's gonna be great,
Sure.
maybe it's not. I don't know, but obviously there's lots of conversation around Pratt and things like that. And I don't know. Like it's also I love Charles Martinet too, though, right? And it's like they have a crazy cast in that. And so yeah, I don't know how it's all not necessarily going to play out, and every year's different for us. But I do think you're right that, and look, I think we're guilty of that too, of sometimes having celebrities or big bands in our show. And I will say that I don't think we need it for the viewership, but I do think it kind of creates an excitement around it. And I will say, like when Neil Druckmann got Game of the Year from Christopher Nolan, like he thought that was pretty cool, right? And it's sort of like sometimes these game designers respect people from other mediums, and it's cool to have them there. And like when Guillermo del Toro gave out an award, it's like to the Dishonored guys last year, they were like our Deathloop guys, they were like super excited, and they said to me after, like, oh my God, I loved Guillermo del Toro, that was such meaningful for me to get that award from him. So it's like there's also that where it's like I think it does sometimes matter to the developers that the celebrities are there to honor the game creators and the games, right? We're not giving awards to celebrities. And yeah, so I don't know, like it's a constant debate. I think, our show obviously has some celebrity component to it, which it probably always will. But I don't think, to your point, I don't think there's a reliance on it. If there's been a little bit of a move away from it, but then I think with all these adaptations and things like that, I think there's kind of new or interesting ways to involve talent, which is like very authentic. And also, what I say, when sometimes people say like, why don't you honor the developers more? And it's like, all the awards are for game developers, really, right? And it's sort of like they're the people that get up on stage, get to give speeches and things like that. So there are lots of game developers in our show still.
Sure.
How do you see the show evolving? It's obviously getting bigger and bigger every year, but do you foresee any sort of meaningful changes to format, or are there things that you've wanted to try with the Game Awards and there just maybe hasn't been, the right year?
Yeah, there's lots of stuff, and especially with the pandemic, I mean, it really kind of slowed us down of like the things we wanted to do, right? So like, when we did the Last of Us performance with Eddie Vedder, right, of Future Days a couple years ago, like I would have loved to have, like Ashley or Troy involved in that or something, right? But it's like we just can't because he was in Seattle. I just like the past couple of years have been really difficult to kind of do bigger things. But yeah, there's always things I want to do with the show. We've had a couple musical numbers we've tried over the years have never panned out, which we've tried to do with like, cool actors and voice actors and stuff that have never happened. I'd love to do more kind of production numbers around it. I'd love to take the show on the road, honestly. My vision is like I'd love to do like the Game Awards like live from Tokyo one year or something, and like have everyone
Sydney?
go out there, and I could just be like so cool to have like all the devs there, and all Nintendo and everything. Like just it would be really cool. So we're not there yet, and especially again the pandemic has slowed down the potential of doing that, but I'd love to eventually travel the show to like Asia and Europe and stuff like that, and kind of make it a destination every year where we do it. So that's another thing that I think like down the road we hopefully will get to.
We have a beautiful opera house here in Sydney that I can hook you up with that.
I would I would do Sydney. I would really love like the Olympics, or like travel around and kind of pick a destination and say like, hey, Game Awards this year will be in this city, and everyone will come out.
Game Awards from Rio. That'd be super exciting.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
In time.
Speaking of other sort of tentpole gaming events, obviously E3's coming back, crawling out of its pit.
They say they're back
for next year.
They say they're back, says Geoff.
And now we're turning into a drama alert. Like, what's the tea?
Can I ask a question on that, Luce? Can I jump in?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, because I'm actually really interested in this, because obviously you had a very close relationship with E3 for a long time.
Yeah.
And then I think was it 3 years ago that you kind of said, okay, I'm done with E3 now, I'm moving back. Like, I don't know that what was the catalyst behind that decision? Like, what really led to that moment where you're like, okay, that's enough?
Well, it was, I'd been to every E3 in person, right? Since I was, 15 or something. It was like started in 1995. And I think in 2020, before the pandemic, I'd done E3 Coliseum. I'd been involved in that stuff. And there were some plans for E3 in 2020, which never came out publicly, that, I just wasn't really, I didn't think it represented the industry in the right way of sort of where they were taking E3. And look, they had lost, they had a participation problem. So they had lost PlayStation, they had lost EA, they lost a lot of companies. And I think it was going into 2020. I'm like, this is the year of the PS5 and the new Xbox launch. And, if you're not going to have PlayStation there, it's not really an E3, especially in a launch year. And then a lot of their plans were just like E3 should represent the best of our industry to the wider world. And there was just a lot of like silly stuff that they were trying to do. And I just didn't think represented the industry the right way. And again, none of that ever came out publicly because that E3 never happened. So it's hard to really like talk about it because they never announced it. I just didn't, I had to make a call that I didn't think the direction they were taking E3 was going to be right for the industry. And I just put my sort of foot down and said, I don't want to be part of this and be involved in it. So I just kind of made that call. And then, look, I didn't know what was going to happen. And then COVID hit and they canceled E3 and things like that. So, it wasn't really just one thing. It was kind of a combination of like lack of participation in E3 and the direction the event was going. It's funny when like they announce E3's back and everyone's like, wow, E3's back, and it's like E3 really wasn't E3 in the final 3 or 4 years of it, right? I mean, like I think the E3 that we all remember is like the E3 of like 2012 or something, right? Where it was
15
just like
for me.
Exactly.
Well.
Yeah,
15
exactly.
was a
Those
good one.
amazing years, which were like, big press conferences, big parties, excitement, and like that's E3, but it sort of was on this glide path to history. And they did that digital E3 last year, which was just like, atrocious, right? And it was just like, that's like was just not representative of the industry. So again, like I think I'm in a position now where I'm not trying to be arrogant about it. I just sort of like I did not believe in what they were doing, and I was like, let me go off. And I didn't even think of Summer Game Fest as the thing I was going to do. I just sort of said, hey, I'm not going to be a part of this anymore. With what it is, and we'll see. They've announced that there's an intention to do an E3 next year. They didn't say anything about anyone being signed up or being a part of it or anything. So we'll see. I mean, I've talked to them about it. I mean, maybe it'll happen. Maybe it won't. Maybe I'll be involved. Maybe I won't. I don't know. But I think there's a lot of work to be done. So it's just funny when people sort of see a tweet and they're like, yeah, E3's back. And it's like, honestly, like, even if I was to somehow take over E3, it's like there's so much work to do there about like what is E3, do people even want to participate in it and things like that. And just because you say something doesn't mean that people are going to show up with all their announcements, right? And be a part of it. So there's a lot of work to be done. And I tend to think the idea of what E3 was, I have such fond memories of that. And, I think it's just kind of, that's going to live in the past of like, that's what it is. And I know it's hard for everyone to sort of break up with that idea of like everything being combined into this 2-day, 3-day showcase of everything. I just think the world has changed. Even the companies that participate in E3, it's just changed a lot, right? I mean, now Microsoft, it's like with Bethesda, and if they get Activision, I mean, that's like, that was like half of an E3 floor is now just Microsoft. So are they powerful enough to do their own thing? And I like my shows are all about bringing the whole industry together. And I think, to answer your question, what I think really got my goat about E3 2020 was just the whole industry was not going to be together at E3. And like, I was proud at the Game Awards. We had that moment years ago where we had Reggie, Sean, and Phil kind of come out together on stage and be it's like a united industry. So I'm like, if they can't solve how to get everyone to come be part of E3, it's not really E3.
But do you think that participation attrition is due to the ESA's mismanagement, or do you think it's to do with the fact that companies are realizing that they can do this on their own and they don't need to pay millions of dollars for a spot on the show floor?
I mean, I think it's absolutely, it was, mismanagement by ESA, but also I think it's just like not evolving the business model, right? Of sort of what E3 was. And look, it's a very difficult thing. And I'm not here to cast aspersions their way. It's like, I saw this a lot when I was at MTV. It's just like when you're kind of a TV company trying to transition into digital, you have so much momentum around the old way of doing things. It's very hard to like, completely reinvent your business. So E3 was a physical trade show, and they struggled for years about like, are consumers coming or not? Or like, what is E3? And when your business model is based on selling trade show booths to people, it's very hard to transition it to something new and different. And that's why I learned with Summer Game Fest is like, we're just going to do something completely different and start from scratch as like a digital first event. So it's, I think ESA had its management challenges with how they approached the show, But also, I just think like the model of it, as you said, got really costly for game companies, and it's just very hard to like fully reboot that. So yeah, it's sort of both those things I were sort of conflated together into a situation that just became like untenable for that kind of model of E3. And that's why I'm curious. Like, I don't know, like E3 next year, like is it a big physical show at the convention center, or consumers coming? Like, again, there are no answers on any of that yet. I don't think they've figured it out. But yeah, it's sort of, I think a bunch of factors sort of played into it. And you said the macro trends of companies being able to do their own events, speak directly to their consumers, that works just fine. I think the thing that I found with my events, and why people like something like the Game Awards, is that cross-pollinating the audiences, and that Nintendo can speak to all their fans at a Nintendo Direct, but they're talking to if you own a PlayStation, you're probably not watching the Nintendo Direct, right? If you don't have a Switch, because you're watching because you're a fan of that platform. And the opportunity at some of these other events is kind of like, oh, you're going to reach other audiences and new audiences and convince, other gamers that, you have cool stuff for them. So again, people like us watch all the events and have all the systems. The average gamer doesn't. And I think that's sort of the opportunity of an E3 or a Game Awards or these bigger events, is to kind of bring everyone together to celebrate the whole industry.
Yeah, awesome. And so, I mean, you mentioned there a little bit about, planning Summer Game Fest, wanting it to be digital, like having that at front of mind. What were your other objectives when you were putting the show together for this year?
Well, the first Summer Game Fest it came together because E3 had fallen apart and they canceled it due to COVID. And I think people were like, what do? We don't know. So everyone kind of called me and said, hey, can you help us? Can we figure something out? So that Summer Game Fest the first year was just about how could we, in a launch year for a new PlayStation and Xbox, how could we bring the industry together in some way? And I broadcast from this room actually in LA all summer, and I was like, my first hands-on with the PS5 DualSense here, and they just dropped it off, and I I was just trying to figure out like how to do something and learn how to live stream and use OBS and Twitch and all this stuff. So it was really just me learning and just trying to kind of like create some semblance of an organizing principle that summer. And the first year was messy, right? Because it was like events were all over the calendar, and people were like, why is Summer Game Fest 4 months long? We want it all to be in 3 days. And that wasn't by design. It was just by function of like, people were at home and, COVID was raging, like no one could do anything. So it's like, to coordinate that stuff was really difficult. And then every year we've kind of evolved it. Like last year we added the big live show that we did with the kickoff. And then this year we added the play days with the sort of physical in-person aspect in Los Angeles for media and influencers. So the goal has just been to kind of continually evolve it. And even now we're talking about like next year, like sort of how do we continue to build on what we're doing with that model. But yeah, the thing that I think was the guiding principle was like, how can we do something that's really digital, that if it doesn't penalize you for not being in LA. And it's like, if I'm a fan of video games in Stockholm, Sweden, I can watch free live streams, I can participate, I can download games, I can feel a part of this. And I think the industry overall we shouldn't be in a mode of like, hey, unless you can spend thousands of dollars to come to Los Angeles, you can be a part of E3. And when I did E3 for many years on like Spike TV, or when I did the YouTube show, people at home were part of E3 just by watching the live stream. They didn't have to go to the show. So it's also, how could you do something sort of free and accessible to everyone? And that was like the heart of the kind of the vision for what Summer Game Fest is going to be.
If E3 does come back next year, how do you see it coexisting with Summer Game Fest play days?
Look, I mean, I think the first thing is we have to know what is E3, right? And it's sort of like, I don't know, so it's like, can it coexist, or is it competitive? I have no idea. Like, we're very set on like what we're doing with Summer Game Fest. It's been extraordinarily successful and people like it and it's doing well. So we're going to kind of keep doing what I'm doing. I don't think our vision for Summer Game Fest is to have a 100,000 person consumer event physically. So if that's what they're going to do with E3, then maybe that, somehow lives alongside it. I don't know. Yeah, it's so hard. So like, we know what we're doing. I think we have to get like some more information on like what E3 is. My view is that I want things to be compatible, and I don't think it's good for anyone to have sort of like dueling shows. And I've talked to the guys at ReadPop that are working on E3 now. We've had conversations, and like, I think we're trying to sort of figure out what that looks like. Right. Because I think it's for the good of the industry. It's nice to have sort of some alignment around all that. Cool. But we're marching ahead with our plans, because one of the things I learned with Summer Game Fest is, like even this year, right? E3 got canceled again, and we had a Summer Game Fest, and like we are like 100% moving forward, doing what we're doing. And we're not waiting around for sort of, any other plans. So if things work out, great. But also like, I want people to be able to count on something. And that was back when, like, in 2014, when we were doing the Spike show and it was like, we weren't going to do another VGX. I was like, we have to have an award show this year. We can't not do something. And that's really like birthed the Game Awards. So I've just been a big fan of like, you need to show up and you need to do something. And we might not get it right. It might not be perfect. And Summer Game Fest, we've learned so much over the past 3 years about how to do it. And I think sometimes people in life and in work always like want everything perfect from the get-go. And it's like, no, we're going to iterate, right? And I learned this from even Valve when I was there, making Half-Life. They were covering the making Half-Life. It's just, you have to like constantly iterate and just learn and build on things and show up and try. And, Half-Life got so good because they kept rebuilding the game. And like, there was a year where they delayed it for a year because they literally just threw out the entire game and remade it because it's like, it wasn't good enough. And I think that's the thing with us is like, I just want to constantly keep evolving what we're doing. So, we'll keep evolving Summer Game Fest. And if E3 sort of factors into that, great. It's again, there's always like there's the SEO term E3 that we all use as like a short form. And then there's like the event, like what it is. And we all colloquially just call, even this summer, it's like E3 and it's like, that's fine. But the question is, like,
E3,
what is
actually.
the actual event?
E3.
It was just a brand.
E3. There are shirts, Jeff. You've got one.
Come on, you gave me one. I know, that's right.
Did it annoy you when people would say Summer Games Fest instead of Summer Game Fest?
Yeah, our Summer Game. No, I don't know. Should it be Summer Games Fest? Do you think did we mess it up? Should have been.
It should be game. I actually thought it was games plural. It should definitely be Summer Games Fest. There is more than one game there. It's plural.
Is it GameSpot or is it GameSpot? Right? It's like
well, that's in California where GameSpot, so don't worry about it.
I just say. So it's like, I don't know. It's like, yeah, because I guess IGN was what? That was Imagine Games Network, right? It was GNS, right? I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't know. But it's not game. It's Game Informer. It's not Games Informer, right?
Oh yeah, but I guess.
Is it video games, 1 or 2 words? I'm always going to go with 1 word. That's I'm going to create that word. It should be ours, right? That's what.
Yeah, no. It's people do say Summer Games Fest. I don't know. I mean, people still call the Game Awards VGAs, right? And just because that was like,
do they?
This is why like all these names. Same thing with like E3, and it's like, what is that? Or like, did you go to the Microsoft E3 press conference? There was no E3, and I don't know. It's like what I've learned about names, especially in the digital world. It's like people find everything, right? That was like the first year of Summer Game Fest. New brand. Everyone's like, is anyone going to show up? And it's like, yeah, everyone showed up, and it was just sort of like, people talk very quickly on social media and figure it out. So yeah, I'm not too worried about it.
I was gonna say it's got good SEO. Let's talk about your other tentpole event coming up. Going to Germany for Gamescom opening night live. I'm really sad because Gamescom is one of my favorite shows, and I know we were talking before. I could have gone.
You're not coming, Lucy?
It could have been for 2 days. I'm not doing a 14-hour trip for 2 days.
There's still time, Lucy. You have a couple weeks.
As much as I miss the pork knuckle and the tiny coach.
Why can't you come for 3 or 4 days? You that busy?
Yeah,
hard
man.
sell.
Rings of Power, Game of Thrones, as well as like games coming out again. I'm in demand.
Okay, that's right. That's a big couple weeks because it's right. Like Game of Thrones is like what, the 19th or 20th, I think, and then it's like September 2nd. Rings back out.
Yeah. But how are things going for opening night live? Are you excited to go back to Germany?
I am. Yeah, we're going to be back in person, which is cool. Because we started Opening Night Live in 2019, and we did that big live show in Germany where Kojima was there, and that was fun. And then the past 2 years have been here in LA. So we're going back to Cologne. We're going to have they built a huge set for us, and we're going to have like thousands of people there live. So I'm excited to have the fan energy there in person. And yeah, we'll have like, it's a 2-hour show with like a ton of games we're showing, and actually like a fair number of cool announcements. And like, it's, I wasn't sure what to expect. I know the conventional wisdom online, I think, is like, oh, like not that many people are going to Gamescom this year, but like, there's actually like a fair amount of stuff that we're going to have that's going to be pretty cool in that show. So I'm actually feeling pretty good about it. And yeah, we'll have cool special guests. We'll have some announcements, lots to show. So yeah, it's, I love going to Europe and doing it. Because I think, again, I'm in LA, I live in LA, and it's like there's always like, so, you know, we're so lucky that so many events are here, and I love kind of traveling around the world and seeing people, and you know, it's such a global business. It's fun to be in Germany. So yeah, we'll be there. We'll miss you though.
I know. Have a tiny Kolsch for me. I'll be back next year, hopefully.
Really, you coming next year?
I really want to. I've missed. I went to like 8 Gamescoms in a row, and then I haven't been since 2018. So now I'm super sad.
So you've never come to an opening night live?
No, I've watched them online and enjoyed them from home, sadly. But next year, hopefully. Ralph, have you ever been to Gamescom?
I have been to Gamescom once. It's a lot. It's the sweatiest game event I've ever been at. It's actually one of the sweatiest events I've ever been to in my entire life. Obviously, there's the press day, which is really chill. But then the public day, it's like you walk out smelling like 700 people's armpits. It's
a lot. It's the only event I've ever been to where like the escalators take you down. And it's like they have to stop people at the top of the escalator because you get to the bottom. It's like there's so many people that you can't actually clear the escalator, and it's nutty. So I don't know. This year I assume will be a little bit less congested, but I don't know. Yeah, I'm curious to see how it's going to go, and we'll do our show, and it'll be it's again you can watch it around the world, so you don't need to go to Cologne, although we'll have lots of fans there. And yeah, I think it'll be a fun show. I mean, people always have crazy expectations, right? I mean, that was a little bit even coming out of Summer Game Fest, right? People just wanted like all these things that were never going to happen. And you know, this is a lighter year for releases. Dev teams are certainly still struggling to finish games in COVID, but you know, as I've learned over the years, the internet doesn't really care. It's like they want all their games on the same schedule they're used to.
Sure.
So we'll see, but I am cautiously optimistic that there'll be a couple good moments for people in Germany.
How many world premieres are we looking at? Can you reveal that number here?
I think there's 30 something. And again, like the
premieres.
Well, again, let me couch that correctly, because people say world. So what is, the thing is, the world premiere name I think has been, honestly, I was thinking about this the other day. It's like it's sort of been devalued because it's like there's difference between like an announcement of a game versus a world premiere, a new trailer for a game versus a review. So it's like, what does it really mean? So when I say like 30 games, you're like, oh my god, there are 30 new games being announced, and it's like, no, I don't know, maybe a third of those are new games, right? And the others are like updates on meaningful games. Like we announced like Sonic Frontiers, there's gonna be a new trailer for that. That's a world premiere trailer for that game, but the game exists. We announced it, or we showed the first trailer at Game Awards last year for it. But there's a lot of stuff. It'll be a 2-hour show. We have a bunch of guests flying in. Actually, there'll be a fair number of people on stage. We'll announce a ton of stuff next week in terms of games that'll be there. But yeah, it's definitely a pretty packed show, and I mean, a lot of the industry's taking part. I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Do you think Gamescom has its own kind of identity separate from... Obviously, the Game Awards is about giving out awards, and Summer Games Fest is, I don't know, adjacent to E3. Do you think Gamescom has its own kind of specific thing that it does that nothing else does? Is there an identity to this event that
I mean, Gamescom, at least traditionally, I think it's just like it's a massive consumer event, right? So, it's like hundreds of thousands. It's one of the biggest consumer events, I think, in the world, right? I mean, I think they had
400,000, I think.
Yeah, in 2019, it was like close to 400,000 people that went to that event, which is crazy to me. Like, there are not even enough hotel rooms in Germany to accommodate people. Everyone just like trains in, right, for the day and leaves. So that's its identity to me. I think it's just like a really massive consumer event, whereas, E3 was, again, like it conflicted identity, right? Because is it a trade event? Is it a consumer event? And so that was always really exciting to me. It's like it's really an event for the fans and that sense of community, and that's what makes Gamescom so special.
So with you've got Opening Night Live, you've got Game Awards, Summer Game Fest. Is there anything else you're working on? How do you find the time? That seems like a lot, Jeff.
It is a lot. I mean, it's a lot. Although some people still think, like Game Awards, we start on in like November or something, right? And it's like, most of Game Awards is done now, right? I mean, we pretty much know our lineup and we're working on that. And it's like, here we are in August, and I kind of know what the show is going to be. Like, things will change, but I mean, it sort of takes my full year to do all that stuff. I love doing other things. I've talked about, do I do a podcast? Do I, Final Hours, I still write those once in a while. But it's, things are busy. And I will say, like, Game Awards is a very high pressure show for me. And I, especially given the success of it and stuff, like I take it very personally to like try and deliver for people and make a great show. And it's tough because I don't make the games, so you kind of have to push people to try and, announce things and be ready to do things. But, you always get your heart broken by someone saying like, we're not ready. And, it's going to take another year. So, they're busy things. I don't have a ton of time to do other things, and I would like to do other things, but I'm also, as I get older, try and pace myself a little bit because I've been going full tilt for a long time. So yeah, there are things I want to do. It's just finding the right thing to do. And I'd love to, I've talked on the record about doing more final hours or doing an awesome documentary film and things like that. So it's just finding the time to do that stuff.
Yeah, Jake was like, we kind of said, you got any more questions for Geoff? And Jake was immediately, is he going to do any more final hours? Like straight in there. So it's good to know.
Yeah.
Do you miss doing that stuff? Like more in-depth?
I do. Yeah. I mean, last one I did was the Half-Life Alyx one with Valve a couple years ago. And that I just felt like really obligated to do because I'd done, Half-Life 2 and Portal 2. So I was like, I got to do the next big, Valve coming back to Half-Life. Like we have to do that. So that was actually one of the last things I did before the pandemic. Was sort of the early part of 2020. Spent a lot of time at Valve and shipped that in 2020. I mean, that's the one pocket of time I have in the year is kind of like January through March sort of ish, right? Where I have a little bit of room to do things. I really miss doing that stuff. They're an incredible amount of work. I mean, they take me months to do. And, I don't hire a ghostwriter. Like I really spend the time interviewing people, writing them, building them. So yeah, I think I will always do them. But I like that they can be really special and it's not like, oh, I'm doing 8 this year. So like, what's the next slot? And, working at like a, GameSpot, it's always just like, what are we doing? And we just have to do things to like fill the slot. And I never want that to be final hours of like, oh, I guess I need to do, I guess I need to do Sonic Frontiers because it's like, that's what's coming out. I need to figure it out. There've been final hours over the years that I've like started and never finished just because like the developer didn't want to cooperate or the game changed or whatever. So yeah, I mean, I have one final hours I've talked to someone about that for a game that's coming out in 2026 that we've been talking about and things like that. Wow. So it's like sometimes, you plan really far ahead on that stuff. And again, that could change, right? Who knows if that game comes out or comes out when. But
announce Elder Scrolls 6 release date, Jay? Did you just announce Elder Scrolls? Is that the Elder Scrolls 6 release date right there, Geoff? Come on, just tell us right now.
Yeah, well, that was they announced was like there was that, and then you said there'd a Fallout after
Fallout.
That. I saw.
If you said you were working on a final hours for like the year 2035, I'd be like, that's Fallout right there, man. He's locked it in. It's confirmed. That's the one.
Yeah, so it's one of those ones that like, who knows? I would love to do more of them, and I think we've experimented like with Portal 2, or with Half-Life Alyx, we did. Like a Steam app for it to release it. It was really cool. We did an awesome, really cool 3D models. So I'm really proud of how that like looked and felt as like a kind of premium experience. So I've also thought, is there a way to turn final hours into like a documentary or a film or do a podcast or sort of like do different approaches to final hours? Like the Portal 2 one was really an iPad app. Alyx was a Steam app. I have thought about like other ways to do that, and it's just finding the time. But like, I would love to do like a real like narrative podcast final hours, right, and figure out how to do that and produce it. So yeah, I always will want to do final hours, but the bar is really high for me to find the right game. And also it's partially it's finding the studio that is. And you guys know this from the journalism side. It's like finding a studio that's really willing to be like completely transparent and open about sort of their process. And like the great thing with Valve is like they let me interview all their guys and there's not a PR person in the room, right? It's just sort of like just do what you do, and like I wrote it, and it's like there's no rules, no nothing. And they actually, they always joke that I sort of become almost like a shrink because I come in and talk to all of them and they learn things about each other in the game that they didn't even know internally. So it's a really fascinating process, and they like, Valve requests no edits to it. They really are just like totally cool with it, and like it's a very unique process. Same thing happened when I did the Respawn one on Titanfall. Like there was a lot of really like, really hard stuff in there about like the breakup of the partnership between Vince and Jason and everyone. And it was like, I really dig pretty deep for those, and I never want them to end up just being sort of PR puff pieces. So when I find the right story and the right developer that's willing to sort of lean into this stuff, I do it, but it's rare that you can sort of find those scenarios.
Well, I think that's a pretty nice place to leave it. That's like final hours back on the table. I'm very excited. So, Geoff, thank you so much for joining us. It's been so nice to chat with you.
It's been awesome.
It's been great to chat with you, Lucy, Ralph. This has been fun. I miss the rest of the team, but it's I'm glad we I'll come
They were
back,
so bummed.
Right?
They were really,
Yeah.
really disappointed they couldn't make it. So they send their deepest
All right,
apologies.
we'll do it again soon. Maybe around
Yeah.
Game Awards we can do a big powwow.
We'll get-
and,
That'd be awesome.
Join if we all end up at the Game Awards, which we're
Yes.
going to hopefully do. We'll get you on in person.
Special guest.
I love it. Thanks for having me on, guys. Great questions. I love what you're doing with the show. And Infinity Stone inserted, right?
What a great finish. That's going in the trailer. We're going to work on a channel trailer at some point. That is going right in there for sure. All right. Thanks,
guys.
Jeff.
Thanks
Cheers,
again.
man. Bye-bye.
Lovely. Thank you again to Jeff. That's how I said lovely.
What a cool interview.
Yeah.
You liked
Yeah.
it? It was
liked
good.
it?
It was great.
He was
so
very
good.
He was
great.
very candid. I wasn't quite expecting him to open up, go both barrels on E3 like that. Atrocious, I think, is the word he used to
Yeah.
describe
Yeah.
E3's digital last year. It's like, whoa, okay, all right.
The question is, can
Go
we
on.
get away with that as our title for this video?
I don't think we
either
can.
Either
I think
that, or every outlet out there will do it for us.
Let's let them do that. We'll
It's
try and
gonna
be
be-
a
I think
bit
we're
Yeah.
inviting something.
Yeah.
The thing that
Thumbnail
gets
with laser
me,
eyes.
Yeah.
I wish I want to know the tea on what the ESA were planning for
know.
2020.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
I wonder if it's a bunch of blockchain shit or NFTs.
No, I reckon that was before all that shit was happening. Like
Well,
that was.
they put it in 2021. There was that whole fucking press conference just about that blockchain game.
Yeah. No, I got the sense that Jeff didn't want to dig deep into that. I think he
Yeah.
was being purposefully circumspect, and he has historically been. Otherwise, I think we would have asked him, "Hey, tell us." But I think that would have been a bit of a wasted question.
Still,
But,
I'm glad you guys asked him, like, hey, where'd you come from? How'd you get started on this? Because like it is out there, like he's talked about it before, but I don't think everybody really like knows or looks that up. But he's legit. Like he is literally from the beginning. He's touched every avenue of gaming, really, and he, it was a glow up, like so many of us. So, except he runs an award show, and I'm just in shorts in a room talking to you guys.
Wearing a Jeff Goldblum shirt. Don't sell yourself short, please. Come on now. That's a
show
fucking
that
cool
shirt
shirt.
off.
Yeah,
Let
man.
me see that shirt.
Yeah.
Stand up.
It's Dr.
There we
Ian
go.
Dr. Ian Malcolm.
Oh, did you guys see the new Jurassic World Dominion?
No, I heard it was terrible.
But did you see
don't bother.
Sam Neill tweeted about he tweeted like, oh, there's going to be 14 minutes of extra footage that was cut, and this is how
It's just
Jurassic
gonna be
World
them
Dominion was meant to
riffing.
be.
Oh,
Yeah,
boy.
them hanging out. Just being like,
14 minutes is really going to make a huge change to the movie.
Oof.
release the Sam. What
The
was his name again? Sam what?
Trevorrow cut?
Oh,
Sam Neill
it was
cut?
a Colin
Sam Neill
Trevorrow
cut.
cut.
Apparently, Prey rules. I haven't seen it.
Prey
yet.
is
Apparently
so
it's-
good.
It's awesome. Yeah, it's very good.
Okay.
Very
Is
simple, very
fucking
cool.
sick.
Yeah, really.
Did-
like,
well,
what if the
didn't-
Revenant was Predator?
Oh, immediately. That's
Yeah.
you've sold me. Like that's
Yeah.
it right there. 100%.
Yeah,
Is it as beautiful as the Revenant though?
it's not.
It's pretty stunning.
It does
Okay.
have a good focus on landscapes and like the American heartland.
Yeah,
it's,
right.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Didn't Dan
Also fur
Trachtenberg do
traders.
that? He did that Portal fan
Oh, yeah.
film years
That's
ago,
where he
right?
came
That
from.
was
Oh,
him.
he
Yeah.
totally did.
Hell yeah.
Then he did like 10 Cloverfield Lane and
Yeah.
that.
Wait, this guy is a big
Yeah,
director.
he's a
and
gamer.
he got his start making a Portal fan film.
He did the episode of
That's so
Black
cool.
Mirror with the gaming one, playtest with Wyatt Russell. That was him. And like, it's really funny if you watch that episode because there's all these Edge magazines in it. And the main woman in it is like a games journalist who tries to get this guy to go and break an NDA on a. I used to do Black Mirror coverage. I don't know if you can
Oh,
tell.
right.
Yeah, that was one of
Actually,
my
can we
beats.
tangent for a second? And
Yes.
I'm really interested to hear this. Okay. All right. Mythic Quest. Have you guys watched this?
Oh,
Yes.
I really like it.
I really like
I
it
haven't,
too.
but I heard it's amazing.
Yeah, it's actually really good.
Oh my god, it is the worst show I've seen in years. It is unwatchable.
Australian or
I'm
whatever.
watching it. I'm like, is this how the Big Bang Theory got its run? Is that why
Oh,
the
don't
big
you
like
fucking dare!
Oh,
bring
it's
the
the
Big Bang
same.
Theory into this.
it's so bad. I could not believe it. I'm like, I
man.
cannot believe that this is it. I just the jokes, the characters, I hate it.
I know.
Oh my
But I'm
god.
a huge Sunny fan. So
Like, I like Sunny. I'm not a huge fan, but anytime I watch a Sunny clip, I'm like, hey, that's funny. I get it. Anytime I watch 3 seconds of this, I'm like, no, stop, turn it off. Oh my God, this is so awful.
It's got little cringe. It's got like some cringe gamer talk, but I think like ultimately there's like heart beneath it. And CW, like the old writer guy, that actor, it's like one of his best roles. It's also better if you just come into it liking Rob McElhenney, just because he's a very specific type of thing.
Which guy's like
is
it the
Iron Grim.
He's the main guy. The idea guy.
Oh, yeah, okay, he's that guy. Yeah. I like his energy for sure, but I just think, oh man, there's one episode in that season, the first season, which is totally different.
Yes, if you say the flashback episode is my favorite one,
and it's the best one. I'm like, this should have been the show. I was like, okay, if you'd have made this the series, I'm 100% on board, totally. Yeah. But yeah, there's apparently this other thing. This like I've heard about this other show that's like a Players, that's the one.
Yes.
Okay.
Apparently
Is that good?
It's amazing. Apparently it's good.
I haven't seen it either. Okay, cool. I've heard very good things about that one. But then I kept hearing good things about Mythic Quest, and then I watched that. I'm like, this is insufferable. Oh my God. So I don't know, man. We'll see.
All right. You know what'll cleanse you at least is there's that Netflix thing. It's like technically Black Mirror. And it was like a choose your own adventure.
Oh, I saw that.
Bandersnatch.
Yeah. That was good. I
like that.
That was
gaming
good.
goodness.
Look,
right
since that was a great thing, let me remind you all of a bad thing that we got recently that I am still thinking about, and that's the Resident Evil Netflix show.
I didn't watch it. Dude, after Welcome to Raccoon City, which is one of the most baffling movies I have ever seen.
Yeah,
I could.
Lance Riddick, incredible performer.
Shout out to
him. Does a great job as Albert Wesker. He carries the show. The main problem with the show is that he's not in it enough. And it's like someone did their homework and still failed the test. And it baffles my mind. Like they studied, they did the homework, they had the study nights, everyone knew what was going on. And then the test came and they failed. And it's so, and that's everything's canonical. All the games are canon. Chris punching a boulder is canon. Like they made it canon. And yet at the same time, nothing is connected to it. Nothing is.
Wait a minute. So it's all canon, and then it's like, so what do the teenagers in this world think? What are they up to? It's so weird. Like, who did they make this for?
Let me tell you, it's told in 2 settings with a third setting at the bottom. It takes place in the year like 2030 or 2040, very distant future. The world definitely has experienced the T-virus and so much more. But it goes back in time when Albert Wesker had children in the year 2022. So that takes place now. And it takes place in Raccoon City. Oh. But they acknowledge the fact that there was a Raccoon City before that exploded to a gas leak, and this Raccoon City replaced that one, and Umbrella's the one that runs the city. Like they somehow told the same. They somehow canonically told the same story twice in a row. In the same thing.
Oh no!
I don't have time for these sorts of shows at this point. I'm just not.
I gotta pick and choose. I'm gonna die
exactly
like soon. So
I could watch The Sopranos for the 4th time, or watch that. I'm gonna watch The Sopranos 4th time. You know what I mean? So.
Oh, dude, I'm going to New Jersey in a couple weeks because that's where I'm flying from. And
bring us back some gabagool.
Jeff Bacala is like, I'll pick you up from the airport and I will take you on the Sopranos opening thing. I'm just gonna fucking film it the whole time. Yeah. I'm so excited.
Meet you guys. I want to meet you guys and film me on the roadside, and I'll be like,
fucking do that.
Eating a sandwich outside Satriali's, you know.
Yeah.
God. We went off on a little TV tangent. As we are known to do, but we should probably get back to some of these video games. I don't know. I know. Jake, would you mind taking us through the major game releases?
Since we last met, the biggest releases are Multiversus. I don't know how to say it.
Is it officially
the one
released?
where Shaggy fights Batman?
Season 1 is going to be on the 15th.
It's technically
it got delayed.
No, I think they tweeted out that it is
the
going to
new
be
date. Is it? Okay,
yeah.
cool. Okay, cool.
So it's not
technically out.
No. Sorry, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 also. 2 Point Campus, Cult of the Lamb, Rumbleverse and Spider-Man PC. So, Ralph, I want to hear from you because you did jump into Spider-Man PC.
Yes, I did.
Save me the technical jargon, okay? But
sure.
Is it a good port? What's up?
It's a good point. That's a good point. That's it. Like, bottom line, it's it got at the start it was less good, as in when we first got the build, and then we got like 2 updates. The last one being really chunky, and then there was a promise of a day 1 patch after that. But on that second patch, it ran beautifully for me. I have 2080 Ti and a 3070 laptop. And there are reports from a few outlets, including Digital Foundry, that it doesn't run as well on mid to lower end hardware. And that apparently is something that's being addressed on that sort of day 1 launch patch. But bottom line, it, for me personally, ran beautifully. Extremely flexible options menu that really focused on the right things. The ray tracing implementation is really nice. It does support ultra wide.
Nice.
It has actually surprisingly excellent keyboard and mouse support, and this is something that I was like, "There's no way." I know, right? There's no way.
That on mouse and keyboard.
That is what I said. That is what I said until I did it, and I'm like, okay, look, is this better than a controller? No, it's not. A controller is still superior, but if you do not want to use a controller, I don't think you're going to have a bad time on a keyboard and mouse. They did a really great job with the way they've mapped keys and its responsiveness. And just the whole thing feels really solid.
Jake looks so unconvinced, by the way. I'm just watching him. He's just like,
how is it implemented? WASD? Does he walk around?
The WASD?
Yeah, there's a walk toggle. There's a walk toggle, so you can walk slowly if you like. But yeah, no, but overall though, really fantastic, excellent port, and it's great because Sony are really investing in this. This is from Nixus Software, who Sony actually acquired.
Yeah.
They've made a number of excellent PC ports in the past. This is a top quality PC port house. They've cut no corners. Even some of the stuff that I called out in my review, it was immediately patched in that day 1 thing. Not because I called it out, they were already working on it, obviously. But you know, like for example, I'm like, ray trace reflections on this setting. You know, there's pop-in on the ray trace reflections, so don't use that setting. Sure enough, 2 days later, Nixus Software are like, we've added a setting that allows you to independently control draw distances on ray trace reflections in the menu. It's like, okay, cool, great, fantastic, thank you. So just the amount of work and thought that they put into this is so top tier, and yeah, it's a super safe purchase. If you've got a higher end system, I think the word is still we're still waiting on final confirmation of how it runs on lower end systems. So yeah. But what a great game, man! Spider-Man. I don't know, everyone here loves Spider-Man, right?
Yeah. I like cool.
Because I did see a lot of revisionism in the comment section as well. Like, this game actually sucks because it's just lots of waypoint markers, and it's like, no, like I think the whole conversation around that is about, it lacks a lot of context and nuance, because if you just say, it's just an Ubisoft open world, it's like, well, technically yes, but you're fucking Spider-Man flying through, like swinging through that world. And also it's only like 25 hours tops to like platinum it, you know? It's very restrained. It's like it knows how much it should give you, and then it knows when to step off, similar to Ghost of Tsushima, I think, where it's like, this game should only be this long, and then it's done. And that's great. And that's where I think a lot of our fatigue with open worlds comes through in how much those worlds ask of us, just how endless they can feel and repetitive they start to feel. But I think Spidey's like the perfect example of how it's okay to have a world like that, so long as you just, you know what I mean? Like you just keep it all constrained and then we're done. That feels awesome.
It also is like, if the locomotion is good enough, if getting around that world is fun enough, and doing the thing moment to moment is fun enough. I mean, like the game has fast travel, and you really only use that fast travel when you're trying to like really 100% after you beat the game. Like it's the only time it really comes up. Like it also told like one of the better concise Spider-Man stories in a hot minute. By far, I feel pretty strongly about that. Like there's so much that game really nailed. Yeah, do you go to towers and unlock a thing to unlock more things? Yeah, but there's so much more to it. Like you said, there's so much more context to it than that. And it also just has that longevity, that the legs, where it's something I've never uninstalled on any of my devices, and I'm gonna have it on Steam Deck. So it's something where I always am like, I'm gonna have a beer and go for a swing. I had a bad day. I'm just gonna go fire up the game and swing around again. Do I want to swing during the day or like when at night? Like let's go. Like I just have always done that with I play every single Spider-Man game, like even the bad ones, and this just makes me happy, and I'm really excited for the sequel.
I'm curious, Ralph. The revisionist comments that you said, were they appearing on your videos or the general reviews across the zeitgeist?
Both. I saw it on like Reddit and whatever, and like by the way, like I'm not saying you're wrong when you say that. Like everyone has their own opinion for sure. I'm just saying that I think positioning this game as like, oh, it's just this, it's shit. It's like, well, no, that's not right. Like it is just that, sure, but it's not shit. It's just like because it manages to get that part of it right. But yeah,
I'm also curious if. Sorry, go ahead, Jack.
I was just gonna say it also, all right, like, yeah, dude, if you're not like crazy about Spider-Man, sure, that is probably what it is to you. But if you like Spider-Man and you want to see this story and have fun, playable sequences too, like, then come on.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious because it's the way that you said it, Ralph, reminds me of in the early 2010s of YouTube and like mid 2010s of YouTube, where when content creators would make a video, and I was guilty of this. Where you get in the mindset of this game equals this sentence, and like the thesis of my 30-minute piece on this Sonic game or this highly contested Assassin's Creed game is the joke and thesis, and then you see comment sections after comment sections about the same statement, and it's like, oh, that's a completionist reference, that's a peanut butter gamer reference or whatever, and it's like it kind of takes. Kind of in a way, it adds to what you're saying, Ralph. It kind of like it takes away from what the piece is contextually and just goes, oh, it's just a comment. It's just a comment that this one creator said that I identify with, and that's the thing I'm going to keep saying. Obviously, not the same thing, but I see that often. I see it happen more often now than before, for sure.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting phenomenon. There's a whole probably separate discussion of like gaming revisionism and like when a game launches and it has a certain narrative around it, and then 2 to 3 years later how narratives could really kind of evolve and shift, and it's like, well, actually, if you really think about it, that game sucked, you know.
Everybody likes Assassin's Creed the other way now.
One of my favorite things about that, Ralph, is when I joined G4, I was doing research on, I wanted to do a segment on games that came out and then we forgot about them, or rather time passed, and I looked up IGN. They did an article on Arkham Asylum when it first came out, and there was some dreaded news about DLC and collector editions and how that whole thing was released, and the comment section was like, dead game, it's gonna suck, it's gonna be so bad, the worst thing ever, they're not gonna make a sequel. Looking back at 11 years later, yeah, they made several sequels and several spin-offs, and they're still doing it, and it's like, yeah, in that moment we all cared for like a whole 5 minutes, but we moved on.
Sure.
But just look at us now. Ralph, what else have you been playing?
I played some Cult of the Lamb. Did you guys play that one?
Dude, I'm obsessed with it.
Everyone? Excellent.
I haven't played it.
Well, then I did a lot of talking on Spider-Man, so maybe someone else could kick off the Cult of the Lamb.
Go for it, Lucy. Go for it, Lucy. This is all you.
I guess where to really start, because Cult of the Lamb is at its core a management sim. You run your own little cult, so that involves bringing followers in, making sure they are aligned with your cause, and your cause is just following you. Planting crops, cooking for them, taking care of them when they're sick, holding sermons and rituals. And then the other part of it is a dungeon crawler. You are a sacrificial lamb at the beginning of the game. You're sacrificed by these 4 evil gods, and then another mysterious 5th one brings you back to life. And all they ask in return is that you shepherd your flock and take out the evil gods. And it is one of those games, and I was talking about it on GameSpot After Dark with Gerard earlier today, but like the thing that I love the most about Cult of the Lamb is, and there's a lot to love, it's quirky, it's funny, I really love the art style, it's kind of like got this 2D
pop-up
book, it feels really nice to play. It's lizard brain shit. Every single thing that I do, the meters are going up, whether it is my followers gaining levels because I have danced at them And they really like it when I dance in it, and it increases their devotion in me. Or if it's they worship the big shrine at the heart of the cult, and then it's so satisfying. And I love the word game, the game feel of it, of holding down the button, and all of the devotion just flooding into my body, and the dopamine is going up. The serotonin in my body as like I'm leveling up and I'm unlocking. It's very. It has this kind of one of the things I love about Persona, right, is the stuff you do in the social simulator stuff affects how you are in the metaverse or in the TV. And very similarly in this, it's like you can do various things in the cult and in the outlying areas where you can unlock tarot cards. You can do rituals that give you buffs. You can, by doing a certain amount of things, you unlock different abilities, different starting weapons in the battle bit. And every single thing it has become that game where it is like, I will just do one more day. I'll go fishing at night. I'll just do cooking. Okay, I'll just bury my dead. I'll just go around and like get my tithes, okay? And it's like I was posting in the Giant Bomb Discord, and I was like, out of context, this is the most wildly cancelable shit. So please don't take this out of context. I said,
get ready to clip this, people.
I said, I just think it's really shit that I can't extort my elderly followers for bribes, because they would be the ones who, not bribes, but their tithes, because they would be the ones who would absolutely give me, because they are gullible enough to have followed me for this long. And I was like,
you would do really well. You would do really well in Florida.
Yeah. So it's a really great game. It ticks all of the boxes for me.
So wait, are you working towards a final boss? Is there a story, or is it just an endless thing?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's, I think, a really interesting question. And I think that's a central question to the nature of this title, because I think the one side of it that you described, Lucy, is the management game. But there is the other side of it, which is a roguelite, which is a dungeon crawler and whatever. And I think both of those. Yeah, sure. And I think both of those games. Yeah, both of those genres, I think, have expectations associated with them about longevity and replayability, and this idea that you can continue to return to a management game to build it up a different way and focus on something else and whatever. And similarly with a roguelite, there'd be like, build diversity, and you just want to come back to continue to experience the combat. Cult of the Lamb is not like that. Cult of the Lamb is much more finite in the sense that it's only aiming to deliver you a good sort of 20 hours. And both of those sides of the game, the combat and the management stuff, they're only as deep as they need to be to keep you interested for 20 hours. And after that, that's it. You're done, right?
I like that.
So are you working towards a goal of killing a boss? Yes, you are, definitely. But both sides of the game exist in service to the other side. And the whole thing exists in service to that final goal. The point of Cult of the Lamb isn't to play it forever, it's to finish it, which I think is quite different to why you might play your traditional roguelite or your traditional management game.
Yeah. And it's just very funny as well. It's like,
it's so good.
You get followers who will they'll ask you to do the weirdest things, like, hey, glorious leader, I believe in you so much, I want to eat a bowl of shit. Can you please prepare one for me? Or I love you so much, can I please be sacrificed as a testament to how much I love you? You can marry them as well. And have you smooched so you can smooch your betrothed, your partner. But this is another thing, is that when they get old, you can't smooch them anymore. So
ages.
Is this the games? Ages. Is this the games language, or is this just how you talk about things?
No. They say it's a smooch in the game, and when you do, their devotion goes up. So
yeah, it's so good. I had one of my followers came up to me and he's like, "Hey, bro, I want to get my friend over there to eat a bowl of poop. Can we do that?" And you're like, "Hell yeah, man, let's do it."
Go.
And then you get this guy to eat a bowl of poop. And then like 5 hours later, the same guy comes up to me and he's like, "Oh, that was so funny. He totally ate that bowl of poop. Let's do it again." And I'm like, hell hell yeah, man, let's do it again. And then that was it. I was sold, man. I'm totally on board.
It's great. And like, I think, Ralph, to your point, I like that it's finite. Like even looking at the skill trees and stuff, all the different various things that you unlock, it seems everything is just manageable and everything is attainable. Yeah. And I'm just really in it for the ride at the minute. It's the music as well it just follows me around. It's really good.
Gerard, what did you, because I know you're big into your roguelites and 2D combat and whatever. What did you think of that side of the game?
The combat is what sold me. I love it. Just, I hate to say that it's like Dark Souls because that's the meme, right? But I definitely, it's a nice blend between that Legend of Zelda dungeon crawly aspect mixed in with the dodge roll kinetic energy of Elden Ring and Dark Souls, and I loved that. I think the bosses are so interesting. Every major boss fight I've had has been just like art wise, they're so interesting, right? Obviously it's a 2D game, but the bosses have this like isometric 3D going on with it, and like every time I fought a boss, I just was like, this, I don't want to fight this. I want to hang out with it. I want to own it like a pet. It looks so badass. So yeah, I don't know. The combat is just, and here the truth is that I don't know if I've expressed this before with you guys or the audience at large. I don't like sim games. I'm not the Sims guy. I'm not the Animal Crossing guy. I'm not the Bear and Breakfast guy. You know, that's what everyone else is playing and loving right now. I get Cult of the Lamb. Cult of the Lamb is the first game that is like pulled me in to be cool with, and I don't know, maybe it's because it's just like everyone loves me game, so I'm cool with it, but it doesn't feel
it's a game made for YouTubers.
Exactly. I need my ego as large as it can be. No, I think it's just there's this thing of, it doesn't feel chory. Everything has purpose. Everything feels like the dopamine hit. Everything feels good to do. Whereas in Animal Crossing or Bear and Breakfast, I always felt like, oh, get this thing to do this thing, and then do this thing to get this thing. At least with Cult of the Lamb, I feel like progress is interwoven throughout my journey, and it felt really nice to experience that.
That was very much my favorite part of the game, funnily enough. It sounds a bit weird, but like economic tuning was actually the thing that really I loved about it.
Yeah.
In the sense that I also am the same. I don't like Animal Crossing. I think it's boring.
You're boring.
Fair enough to those that do. I am. That's a fact. But I find just it's too grindy, too repetitive. I bounce off it, right?
I feel the same way.
Yeah. So, but this is, I think, all of its resource, all of the unlocks are very reasonable and achievable, and all of the grinds, it's not right to call them a grind. That doesn't exist as a term. Whatever you want to get, you can get it relatively quickly, right? But most of all, the two sides of the game are so dependent on each other from an economic perspective, because to be able to build things in your little village, you need to go dungeoning, and to be effective in the dungeons, you need to build things in your village, right? So you need to invest equally in both sides of this game, and you don't even notice how subtly this game is shepherding you from one side of the game and back to the other. So you never find yourself getting stuck in a rut. You never get bored. You're never getting frustrated with the grind. You just you hand yourself over to the rhythm of the game, and it will take good care of you. And then 15, 20 hours will pass, boom, and you've had a great time. So I really love that subtle design that makes that possible.
Oh yeah.
And also, I haven't tried it out yet, but the Twitch integration is very cool. Like, you can.
What is that? Can you describe it?
So when you recruit people into your cult, if you are playing on Twitch and you have everything enabled, you can your people who are watching you on Twitch can be named as your followers in the game.
Oh,
so it's just a very clever little way of incorporating.
You can murder your followers in their sleep and then fillet them publicly. I love it.
Cook them.
I love it.
Yeah. Or sure. I didn't realize you had to unlock a burial pit, so I just had this little stack of bodies in the corner, and all my people kept getting sick, and I was like, "What's going on?" I've wrapped them up. Yeah. But it is a fantastic game. Definitely.
I'm sold on this. Thanks, guys.
Have you? So you haven't actually started playing it at all?
Games. No, I haven't touched it. I'm playing like 3 other games at once, and now I'm going to add this to the pile.
Yeah. What have you been playing?
So I have been playing Xenoblade Chronicles 3. and it is a good old JRPG. It is. I really like the second one, but I think vibe-wise and story-wise and stuff, I really like this one. This one is less like anime babe and more like cool sci-fi. It's very creative. Like once so it starts off really slow, right? And like Ralph, you're playing it, right?
I'm actually not because I've just been too busy, but I'm super excited to because I actually like Xenoblade a lot, but I know that it's 100 hours deep and I just had too much going on right now. But no, I'm super keen.
Yeah, it definitely has a slow start, like so many. But once it clicks and like once the kind of story, it's kind of like a little bit of a twist. Like once that hits, it's like, oh, this is like really, really cool. And the combat is really satisfying. It's still got the Xenoblade thing where it's like all the characters are just shouting their move over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Shield bash, shield bash, shield bash. Like it's not that, but like, for an example. And then every time the battle ends, there's like 2 lines of dialogue. I'm convinced at this point they do that on purpose because it is so grating to the point where it's like they had to have known this. Like there's no, like every single person out there has that criticism of the game. It was the same thing with the second one. So I just think that that's part of it. It's part of the charm. It's like these games are known for like verdant, endless fields with a great sense of scale and repetitive dialogue over and over again, hitting you over the head. But there's something about these games that just has this like good charm to it. It's like it's like the right level of depth where it gets more and more complex as the game goes on. And like, you're like, I'm like 25, 20, 28 hours in, something like that. And like, I'm still getting thrown tutorial boxes for new things. And it's just kind of always introducing stuff, but it's not overwhelming. And you're not hyper managing tons and tons and tons and tons of RPG or JRPG style stuff. It's like, it walks a good line. And with that, the endearing characters, the incredible music. Like the composer did an interview where he was like crafting his own flutes to make the music for this game. Like there's so much going on here. And so it's like you have the music, you have a story that's actually trying to say something. I am very into it. Plus, it's been nice to go back onto the Switch. I haven't touched my Switch in a minute after Steam Decking. Man, the OLED Switch, that screen is, it is something. What a hell of a device, man.
It just feels like Xenoblade 2 came out not that long ago. The fact that they were like, and another 100-hour JRPG for the fandom. Enjoy. And it's got all this music and you're welcome. See you in 18 months for the Warriors game that will inevitably come out. I do think they should relax. They should really.
Well, I mean, it was 2017 it was out.
So I would say that they should relax also because like this thing looks not great. It really, like I'm very forgiving for Switch. Like whatever, dude. Like I get it, but it's hard to defend it, and that's on hand. I'm not talking about me blowing it up on my OLED and being like, why does this look bad? No, like I'm playing it on handheld mode, and the only thing saving it is like the crispness of the OLED Switch. Like, but other than that, it's not looking good. So I wish that, they took more time, maybe waited for the next big Switch upgrade because it would have helped. And they did build a really cool world here. Like I love learning about like this like society, this planet, the different types of factions, the cool robots they have, and the fact that you could turn into like a cool anime man, like a Neon Genesis thing, and then like fight
Ultraman kind of.
Island of Eva, Jake.
Yeah.
Wait, so that's one of your 3.
It does.
Oh, sorry. Go on, Ralph.
Oh, I was going to say it does make me sad to know, like Nintendo just never. I don't think they're ever again going to be try to exist at the cutting edge of hardware, or even anywhere near the cutting edge of graphical hardware. And that's such a bummer because you look at a game like this and you can imagine what a cutting edge Xenoblade game would look like if they had the right engine and the right tech to power it. Like they could make something fucking incredible, but we are never going to get that, And like, I still like Xenoblade Worlds, don't get me wrong. I like their art style. I love so many aspects of those games, but it does make me sad to know that they are never going to look better than like, let's say, a generation and a half old. You know, that's generally where
Nintendo
it lands.
on the cutting edge. I want Mario with pores, Super Mario with pores and subsurface scattering.
I want to see the nipples, the little nipple dots. I want to see each one of those. You know?
Milk duds.
Oh.
Sorry.
That's gonna haunt me. Okay, so that's one of your three. What else have you been playing?
Yeah, so I did keep playing Mad Max. I talked about it a little bit here. Thank you guys for allowing me to talk about that. And shout out to my audience, like my folks who watched this show, because they were all like, yeah, you should do a video on it. And I did. And people are really enjoying.
It's done really well, that video.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, oh, okay. Yeah. I'll like just make more videos about like the dumb games, like dumb old games. Yeah, I love it. I still think it's like it scratches a good itch where I'm burnt out on the open world checklist thing, but there's something about just altering that world and that way you get around that makes a difference. Similar to what we talked about with Spider-Man. It's better because you're Spider-Man, you're swinging around. It's better because you max and you're driving around in the wasteland. Sorry.
God, no! Please stop. We just no.
Sorry. Okay.
So harsh. Even the Brit is offended by that. Okay.
Yeah, everybody. Sorry, everybody.
The Commonwealth stick together.
That's right.
I'm gonna have a notes app apology posted on my social media.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then the other thing I was playing is Multiversus, which I am not like super technical on Smash-like games. I enjoy them, but I don't know. I like Brawlhalla. I like Smash. Never really touched any of the other stuff, but I touched this, and I think it's kind of cool. I don't like the free-to-play stuff. I see battle passes and grindables and things, and I'm just like, oh, boring. But then they hired Kevin Conroy to voice Batman, and they have character contextual lines where like you'll square off against Shaggy and Kevin Conroy will be like, come at me, hippie. Like he'll like, it's so weird and wacky, and like every character is like incredibly tailored to doing wild shit, and like every single move is really cool and creative and just like a labor of love. I love old cartoons. I love Tom and Jerry. I grew up watching reruns of that stuff. So to see like their animations tie into like, you know, like Tom and Jerry is a 2-character duck hunt dog style thing. And, you know, a lot of their moves will be like Tom trying to grab Jerry and miss. And that hit is like the enemy just getting hit in the crossfire. And it's like little creative things like that. Bugs Bunny, you know, he's just got a bag of tricks. Like I love that stuff. And that's really why I've dug it. I don't know if it's going to like last forever. I think they have a treasure trove of characters to really dig through. And if they embrace the meme stuff, they could really pop off. I mean, they have like Super Saiyan Shaggy or whatever, Ultra Instinct Shaggy. So like, that's funny. So if they keep really playing into that, I think it could do well. I said like, I don't know if gameplay wise it has the chops to like be at Evo, but like technically they are at Evo. I think it's more of like a they bought their way in thing. I don't know. I'm not too well versed on that stuff, but it's fun for casual play and it's free to download. So like, that's why I was like, yeah, check it out if you like the Iron Giant and you want to beat up Adventure Time Man or whatever his name is, or, you know, but yeah. Sorry.
Finn.
I don't know anything about Adventure Time either. One of my good friends has an Adventure Time tattoo, by the way, so he'd be very upset for this.
Yeah.
John
Who's
DiMaggio.
got some great moves. He can kick, like he'll like kick his down smash is like kick flipping off of someone's head, and every time you pop, he'll like kick flip the board, and it's good. It's got a lot of creativity. It's still an open beta, so there's not a lot of levels. Not a lot to it yet, but you could spend money on it. You could spend money on skins. Yeah. So there you go. We should save this conversation for another video. I actually, because I was like, hey, everybody, this is what I think of the game. I don't like the free-to-play stuff. And there's like a whole new subgenre of folks that just play Fortnite and they embrace that stuff and they don't mind any of this. And they're like, why? What are you crying about? It's free. And I'm like, yeah, there's more to it than that. But like all of a sudden I felt like this like old boomer It's like weird. So
I mean, you have to pay with it for it. Like
I was on the front lines of Battlefront 2, man. You don't.
Yeah,
you
man,
don't
that's
know.
right. It's, we know.
But yeah, that's me. And then I'm playing a bunch of redacted, unreleased games, which I'm very excited to talk about because so far so good.
I didn't even. Oh, I know some of the ones you're talking about actually. Cool. It's
No one sent me anything, so I'm currently playing none of the new stuff.
I was gonna say, what are you playing, Duran?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I am playing Spider-Man, which Ralph talked about. I just started playing Cult of the Lamb, which Lucy, you talked about. I'm always playing Vampire Survivors on my Steam Deck. So no new updates there.
Sure.
I will say though, I've been really trying to like Klonoa. I know I talked about this last episode, but I took all the feedback to heart and I tried picking it up again. And I just couldn't. I couldn't get into it. I feel like the last couple of weeks I've just been like Jake joked, like a boomer of gaming. I'm just like kind of like I don't get it. I don't get it. I have been playing a lot of Multiversus like Jake, and I feel the same way that you do, Jake. I'm not exactly sure if I'm on the but it's free bandwagon. I just don't know yet.
We should like fully have that conversation when Overwatch 2 comes out, because I think that's gonna be a really interesting time for that game.
Big time.
Oh yeah.
Big time. What's that, October?
October 2nd or 4th, I think. It's the first week of October.
Sure. Yeah, right. Sure.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know. I've been playing what everyone else has been playing, so I don't really feel like I've got
hang on. You've written here that you're playing Kingdom Hearts 2. So
you just did a video on Kingdom Hearts.
Well, I did do a video on Kingdom Hearts 2. So I guess I could talk about that.
okay.
I never played the Final Mix version of the game, so this was my first time playing the Final Mix PS4 edition, the best version of it. I like all the extra content. If you're a fan of Kingdom Hearts, there are some tough bosses in this game. The whole end game section is like it's like a plaza of doors, and you walk in and you're having these crazy hard fights, and they're all really fun. I love Pirates of the Caribbean. The PS2 version ruined the music, and they fixed the music.
That's good.
10 for me. You fixed
Dude, it
was the PS2 version of the Pirates theme was like burr, 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 burr,
I remember that.
Like the most pathetic horns are like burr, 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 burr. Now it's like they went in and actually like, let's fix this. Let's give it a little more oomph. And they did. And it sounds way closer than to He's a Pirate from Hans Zimmer and his crew. Immediately 10 out of 10 in my book, in that respects. But the hard bosses I was not expecting to get my ass whipped as hard as I did. I don't know if you guys are familiar with those bosses, but
wait, who is it? Is it the actual? Is it like Organization 13, or is it just like more?
It's like a door for almost every member at the end of the game, and you can walk in, and some of them are repeat fights from previous points in the story, but they're on their head. Others are like, oh, I've never seen you before. Who the hell are you? Or how does this go?
Are you hitting me?
A lot of like, haha, you're dead, one hit moves that just require you to change your strategy. But the nice thing about playing a game that everyone knows and loves online on Twitch is that everyone's like, hey, I know the strategy. If you want me to help you, let me know or give you some hints. So that's been really fun about playing some of those older games. It's just Twitch chat. My Twitch chat is kick ass. They're the greatest. They're always just like,
cool.
Hey, don't give up. Try this thing.
Which difficulty are you playing on?
The hardest critical. I think it's a critical or proud. One of the whatever the hardest one is. I got my ass whooped along the time, but when you succeed,
did you fight Sephiroth yet?
Oh yeah, he was a baby compared to the other fights. He was a one take Jake compared to the new fights and the other ones.
Oh, amazing. Well, that's what we've been playing. Last episode, we asked all of you at home for some questions. Ralph, what's the email address again?
It's contact@friendspersecond.com.
Easy. So easy to remember, and so easy to remember that I have to ask you every time.
That's how easy it is, of course.
Look, we're 3 years into a pandemic here, so my brain fog is just maximum level.
Very thick now. It's soup level.
It's Silent Hill
British
over here.
winter British morning. That's right.
But we asked for some questions, and so I know we have been going for quite a while, so maybe we'll just do a few of them and then save some for next episode. Jake, do you want to pick a question? Because we've got a great selection here.
And these ones are more focused on personal stuff. We thought we'd do a few of those versus there's a whole bunch of gaming ones we didn't actually
social security numbers, maiden name of your mothers,
credit score, everything.
Yeah.
All right, let's go with Majdi, Magd asks, what are some other hobbies you guys like? Gerard, would you like to go first?
Movies. I consume movies a lot. It's my passion and drive. It's what I wanted to make and create when I was young, and it's what I got into my field for of acting and film. Never really pursued making a movie. I made some short films, but yeah, I'm a huge movie buff. I'm watching movies several times a week.
That's cool.
But, yeah, that's me. What about you, Lucy?
Not gaming, or I guess like not screen related, but I really like crochet and cross stitch, which I find very meditative.
That is cool.
And so a few years ago, I'm really bad at starting loads of projects and never finishing them, but for Secret Santa one year I did crochet a solaire for Tam, and I put a wire frame in so he could praise the sun.
That's cool. That's
and
cool.
so when Tam actually moved to San Francisco, he even brought it with him. So I like doing stuff like that. And so at the minute I'm working on a small piece. It's like just a little one in a hoop, which is like just a little leopard. But I find it really, because like, you know, I mentioned earlier, like social media, like being online, everything happens so much. Whereas with things like crochet and cross stitch, it's just counting, and I find that very, very relaxing. It doesn't really give you much time to, you know, you can stick something on the TV in the background, but it's really like that's max what you can do. So if there's a show I just want to blast through or something, I just stick that on and I just stitch away.
That is
cool.
Could
say I'm a hooker.
My
crochet hooker.
You can say that. We certainly won't say that.
No.
Do you have an example to hand of something you've crocheted? Is there something you can right there?
Not right here. I did crochet a big Totoro for my mum. I made a Batgirl for one of my nieces, like one of those lovey dolls with like the blanket attached. So I made a Batgirl. I made an elephant. And then at the minute I'm cross stitching a big Totoro piece. That's it's a lot of gray, and it's just like, okay, I'm just gonna do massive blocks of gray, and it's not as fun. But I was doing a Gengar, but I left all the purple stuff back in the UK, unfortunately. Sorry, Tam.
Damn.
I'll get round to it eventually.
Hey, that's so cool. Wow, I wish I had. I'm like, I don't know what if there's. I don't have any hobbies because I just work all the time, which is really unhealthy, but it's true. I try and get to the gym. That's a thing. I try and read books. I do that. I do like actual reading plus also like audiobooks. And like I said, I'm going through some Warhammer stuff right now, which is kind of cool. But yeah, man, I feel it's actually something I feel bad about, because I do feel as though you need to fill yourself up with other things in order to be good at what you're doing in this kind of work, at least I feel. And I definitely feel like I don't have that balance right at the moment. And
I think reading is a huge part of it, though. Like, I definitely fell off reading for so long, and now I'm like getting back into it, and I feel kind of more fulfilled in a weird way whenever I finish. Like, I don't know, finishing a book gives me a lot of serotonin, because it feels like I've actually stuck through with something that's longer than a game. Yeah, I get the platinum of that game, of that book.
Yeah. No, I think my hobbies are like answering lots of emails in one day. I'm like, hell yeah, man, that's fucking awesome. Look at me, I've achieved so much. Look, what a great day.
Baby.
Yeah.
I know how you feel. I'm the same way.
Yeah. But I think it's so important to like have some other stuff going on in your life that you can lean into or lean back into if you need to take a break from your work. And yeah, like I said, I feel like that really fell down for me during the pandemic. I think I used to have a broader palette of stuff that I was doing, but then with the pandemic, it's kind of like a lot of those things closed off, and I would definitely like to reinvest in that part of my life or different parts of my life.
Did you have, besides gaming, any hobbies before you got into games? Or was it just always games was your hobby?
It was always game. Well, like it was games, books, and movies, and that's the thing. Like that's still the same, obviously. But I mean, in a way, I almost don't consider those things hobbies. Like I really consider they are, of course, but in terms of how I see it, like crocheting something, that's a hobby. Or someone that does, I do dragon boat racing, or I play tennis. I think, like a doing thing. That's what I really look to. I think consuming media is obviously, I just do that all the time, and I love that, of course, but. Outside of that, no. I think the most hobby-esque thing that I did was something called, have you guys heard of Body Attack? Has anyone heard of this thing? Okay, basically picture aerobics. Okay, I used to do that. Those were dark times.
Wait,
okay,
what were you wearing? Is it like a Jamie Lee Curtis in Perfect kind of situation?
Sometimes. Wow. So we'll have to go back to this story. Don't worry. But anyone that in Australia that knows Body Attack, or New Zealand, because it originated there, is going to know what I'm talking about, and they're going to think it's very funny because you're looking up clips of what Body Attack is now, and you're going to think, "Oh my god, I can't believe it!" And yep. That's it. So, but no one at home will know what Body Attack is because they can't see the clip, because our editor certainly isn't going to start overlaying clips of Body Attack into the podcast video, is he? No, he wouldn't do that. So we're safe on that regard. Thank you very much, Jake, too. Appreciate you.
John,
has Jake done his?
Oh yeah, wait, Jake. What's your hobby?
Yeah, no, my consuming media, thinking about buying things, thinking about work, getting anxiety about work. I think I have a lot of things that I just like doing. I don't necessarily think they're hobbies. Like I like hanging out with my wife and my dog. I like cooking. I like mixology. I like fucking around and inventing fun little drinks. I also I'm bad at it. I'm so bad at it. I'm trying to like I like kind of trying to be handy. I have a small home and I like trying to figure out how to fix things and messing it up. I'm a little bit of a car guy. I'm like starting to learn how to do things. I went from not knowing anything to being able to like use a wrench. So I'm getting there. And I've kind of fallen into that and have been learning to enjoy that in my spare time. Very spare.
You have a ton of hobbies.
Very spare time, but
yeah, man, it sounds like you got a lot going on.
A lot of stuff, yeah.
I don't have any hobbies here.
It's just that's like occasional when I have time. Most of the time, it's like when I'm not. I'm just playing games, watching movies, or reading comic books. I read a lot of comic books.
Yeah.
But I'm having fun, so that's good, right?
That's all that matters.
Yeah,
exactly.
Hell yeah, I love that for you.
You guys want to pick one more?
Yeah. Gerard, what do you want to pick a question?
Sure. This is one that I think Ralph and I can answer pretty easily, but we'll make it interesting. Matt G asks, I want to know, what's that one game that everyone loves but you just don't?
Oh god.
That's hard.
It's not hard for me. I'm gonna say just quickly Last of Us. I'm just gonna say The Last of Us 2. It's fine. But as long as we promise not to talk about The Last of Us 2, because I just don't want to talk about that game ever again. But yep, that's mine. That is mine.
I mean, mine's
Animal Crossing is mine.
Animal Crossing is mine.
Yeah.
And maybe it's the irony in that you can't complete it that kind of takes that lizard part of my brain away, but I also think it's one of those things where I just don't. Ralph, I struggle like you in that I don't have a lot of hobbies, right? Film is my hobby that I say, but like honestly, consuming content is the vibe, right? You kind of nailed it. Animal Crossing is doing chores and designing things and making it perfect for who you are as a person. But there's no real plot. You don't go on an adventure. Like, designing is the adventure. And I have a hard time deciding what I'm going to eat for lunch, let alone how I'm going to put a plant in the living room. My girlfriend is our designer in the home, So for me, I just can't get a game that's just that passive. I feel like if Animal Crossing had a narrative, or if I cared about being a villager, or if there were stakes, I would be so much more invested. And I've tried during the pandemic. Believe me, I tried. It's a game that I pick up and I kept going, I don't get it. And it's not that I'm like, anyone who plays Animal Crossing is boring and sucks. I just don't get it. I've tried and I can't try anymore.
Oh man, I love the way your voice broke on that last bit, man. Desperation is clear. It's great.
I think for me, it's like just weird old stuff that I never got into. Like I never got into Dot Hack, those games.
Oh yeah.
But like in terms of like big things, I guess that I don't really like League of Legends, Valorant, Fortnite. That is just I see them and I bounce off. It's like ping, like it just bounces off. I'm like, no, I don't. Nope, not for me.
Yeah, yes, that's for the best. Believe me, you made the right call. Big time.
I've never finished a Zelda game.
What?
Whoa! What? Hang on. So sorry. Can we? The podcast is cancelled. It's cancelled.
Sorry.
We need to. We're retooling.
You weren't a gamer.
We're retooling the
cast.
Did you just throw a bottle of water?
Yeah,
across the I've never. I mean, closest I got was Breath of the Wild, which I really, really enjoyed. But like, I did not grow up. I only had a Game Boy Color, and the only game I ever really played in it was PlayStation. It's 9 p.m. Is Pokemon, and even then, I don't actually like Pokemon that much either.
That's fine. You're fine.
That's fine. Yeah. You're good on that one. That's the Zelda thing is a big problem, to be honest with you. We're gonna have to talk about this after the show.
No, I mean, hey, give me one to finish, and I will. I feel like.
Do you mess with Super Nintendo?
I never had one. Never.
Do you do you play any Switch Online games on your Switch?
No,
SNES or NES?
Despite being in the GameSpot family, I do have Switch Online, but I don't. What is on there that I could? And I will do it for next time. My homework is my Zelda homework.
Finish the Zelda game.
I mean, it's hard. I'm the guy out of the group that would say that A Link to the Past is one of my favorite games of all time, and I think it's one of the better 2D ones that exists. It still holds up very, very well. If you want help, Lucy, if you want someone to talk you, not play the game with you, but like just not play the game for you, but just talk you through it and like explain why it's so great, I would love to do that. It'd be an honor.
Okay. So wait, which one? A Link to the
Past for the Super Nintendo.
No,
not Zelda 2.
Not Zelda 2. I know that one. I know that's where Shovel Knight's bounce came from. Was inspired by Zelda 2.
Everyone thinks it's DuckTales, but it's
actually Zelda 2.
Zelda 2. Yeah.
So that's my secret shame. That's a secret.
I love it. That's good. Yeah. Everyone has the blank spots. I have one other one where it's more of like a intelligence thing. I don't know if you guys have that with certain games. Like you see like certain genres where you're like, oh no, can't do that. I started to realize that with Disco Elysium, where I was like, this is well written and really cool. I'm not like smart. I don't know what's going. Like, there's definitely something cool and deep here, but I can't tell you what it is. I like the guy; he's cool. So I bounced off of that. I tried it.
Aww.
Didn't work.
You tried it,
and then it's like genres, like I call them dad games. There are people who love those simulator games, or it's like games where it's just a map. You look at a map of 1913. And you do trade routes, and I wish I could love anything like the people who love those games love those games. It just doesn't work for me.
Have you seen those like people on TikTok or whatever? How you're like, they'll see like they have to bring up a picture or there's just like a bit of gravel and like a shrub somewhere, okay?
Oh yes.
And then this person's like, that gravel looks South American, likely Brazil, probably in the southern part of Brazil. And then he goes to the map and then Google maps it. And then it's like, yep, cool, that's it. That's the one. And like within, just from looking at this one picture of random gravel and random shrub, he is literally able to find exactly where that photo was taken on Google Maps.
Yeah.
That's
unbelievable.
That's wild. That's like Napoleon Dynamite when he tastes the milk and he knows how the milk tastes, what cow it came from or whatever.
No, GeoGuess it. Like, so we went through a big phase of playing GeoGuess it, me and my friends. One time we got a 0 foot away thing, and honestly, I'm still riding that high. It was amazing.
Yep.
But please, if you have any more questions for us, contact ourfriendspersecond.com. This episode, we were like, as we were planning, we were like, we won't go that long. And then, we only get together every other week, and we went really long. But Gerard, to take us away, what is this fortnight, this week or so in games?
I got you. Except I accidentally closed the Google tab, so give me 1 second.
Classic.
1 second, please.
I'll just tell some jokes while he does it.
Cut this part out for 1 moment. There, that was not it. Dang it! Where did it go?
I'll
sorry,
really tell
guys.
some jokes if you go.
Go on, I'm ready for some jokes. Go, good. Give us jokes.
All right, so 2 podcasters walk into a bicycle store.
I got it. Okay, here we go.
Wait, we have to hear the end of the joke.
Go for it. Go.
Pause.
Go for it.
Yeah? What did they say?
I don't know. I was
Wait, hang on. I thought you were reading some joke off a screen and you're like, I can't wait for the punchline on this. And it was really just you throwing words together and then there's nothing.
From the twisted mind of Jake Baldino. That's what it was.
Oh, man.
Holy
God, okay.
shit.
All right, in the comment section, can you please come up with a punchline for Jake's joke?
Joke.
Please finish it for us, and the next week we will award you with, I don't know,
Internet points.
I don't know.
Internet points, that's right.
Eagle-eyed watchers there, sorry if you're listening to the audio version, will have caught me drinking from my water bottle and something solid came out, and I still don't know what that was.
A water bottle. I love that. That's my that's my favorite British phrase.
I heard it and I didn't want to say it.
Bottle of water becomes water bottle.
Water bottle.
Gerard, please take the heat off me. Go.
This is not really a fortnight. It's really just 1 week, but it's this week in gaming over the course of several times. I will be sure to do 2 weeks next time because fortnight in gaming sounds way better than just a week in gaming. So we're going to start with August 7th, 25 years ago today. And on that day, Mystical Ninja starring Goemon for the N64. That's a great one. 22 years in August 7th, 2000 was Tenchu 2.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That is so long ago.
2003, Resident Evil Code Veronica X.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Yeah, for the GameCube. Wow. 15 years ago, 2007, Final Fantasy 12 International Zodiac Job System, aka the definitive version of Final Fantasy 12 that I don't think did we get in the States? I don't think we did.
We ended up getting the Zodiac Age in 2017, 18?
Yeah,
it was 2016, 17.
I think Europe and Japan got the Zodiac Job System version, but we didn't in the States, if I recall. And on that same day, PSP, the Wild Arms XF, for you Wild Arms fans, the whole one of you out there. 2008, we got, hey, I'm the one. I love Wild Arms.
Respect.
Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon for the DS and Monster Rancher DS came out in 2008. Also, Tales of Vesperia came out that day. 4 years ago, in August 7th, we had Dead Cells on every major platform.
Hell yeah.
Overcooked 2 on every major platform.
Oh.
That's cool.
2 years ago on August 7th, Horizon Zero Dawn Complete Edition. And that's it for August 7th. The next day, August 8th, 19 years ago, 2003, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles and Mega Man Battle Chip Challenge. You're going to notice the theme in this week. A lot of Madden, because this is when the Madden games come out. 2005, we had
skip.
Madden NFL 06. 2006, we had Dead Rising.
Whoa.
2013,
Wow.
Yeah. That's 16 years ago, by the way. Don't try to hold on for dear life on that one. Oh yeah.
God.
August 8th, 9 years ago, we had Papers, Please, which didn't feel like 9 years ago.
No,
we had
fantastic game.
We had
just got a mobile port.
Spelunky and SteamWorld Dig.
Wow.
All three incredible games. In 2014, we had Five Nights at Freddy's and Alice Behind the Mirror. Jumping over to 2017, we had Batman: The Enemy Within, episode 1, and then we had
sure.
We had Cat Quest, Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. Well, that's an incredible game. And the second half to Mega Man Legacy Collection 2. 2019, we had Sword Art Online, complete edition in Japan. Then we had Total War: Three Kingdoms, and that's it for August 8th. These are gonna go by real quick because I only picked a few. So August 9th, 18 years ago, Madden 05. 17 years ago, 2005, Dragon Ball GT Transformation. I know that's a fan favorite. Never played it. 2007, 15 years ago, Tomb Raider Anniversary Edition for the PSP. 6 years ago, on August 9th, 2016, No Man's Sky. We just talked about that earlier.
Wow.
And Transformers Fall of Cybertron, which is a fun game.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
4 years.
You can buy that anymore.
It got delisted, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
August 9th, 4 years ago, 2018, Fire Pro Wrestling World Japan. That's a huge title for wrestling fans out there. And then we got Layton's Mystery Journey, Catrelli and the Millionaire's Conspiracy Deluxe Edition. I don't know Professor Layton, but I imagine that's one of their newer titles.
Big deal.
Yeah.
I used to play those games.
I used to love a Layton.
Yeah. 4 years ago, August 9th, 2018, Monster Hunter World. Does not feel like 4 years ago.
No.
And
oh my God.
Okami HD for Switch. And Yakuza 3 Remastered came out. August 10th, here we go. 28 years ago for the Game Boy, Wario Blast featuring Bomberman. Didn't know that it was a thing.
Oh.
A year later, we had Bomberman on the Game Boy as well. 23 years ago, on August 10th, 1999, we had Mario Golf. August 10th, 20 years ago, we had Mega Man and Bass, for you Mega Man fans out there. And then in 2 years later, 2004, we had Game Boy Advance versions of Zelda 2 and Famicom Mini Tentai Club Part 2. I think it's one of those like Nintendo
Hentai
Noir
Club,
games.
Did you say?
No, I said Tentai, but it probably came out hentai because I'm talking really fast. I'm trying not to waste everyone's time. August 10th, 12 years ago, Madden 11. That's great. But another game that did come out, that's one of my favorites, is Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game on the PlayStation 3.
Oh.
Ooh, yeah. 10 years ago, 2012, August, we had Hero Academy on PC and The Amazing Spider-Man, which was I believe the last Spider-Man game before we got the more recent one. 5 years ago, 2017, on August 10th, we had Dragon Quest for 3DS and PlayStation 4. And then on 2018, 4 years ago, we Happy Few.
Oh wow!
That was almost. We got 2 more. We had like 2 more dates left, and then we're wrapping things up. August 11th, 29 years ago, in 1993, Samurai Showdown for the Neo Geo. Pretty dang classic. If you're do you guys not play the Neo Geo?
No, I never got a Neo Geo.
Oh man, I am on an island here. August 11th, 1998, WWF Warzone for the N64.
Back when it was still WWF.
Hell yes.
Yeah. 1999, System Shock 2.
Wow.
The year 2000 on August 11th, 22 years ago. You ready for this one? Paper Mario.
Ooh. Shit.
22 years ago. Soak it in.
That is crazy.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that 2000 was 22 years ago, by the way.
Yeah, me too.
It feels
2003.
like
2003, we had Zoo Tycoon Complete Collection on PC. 2005, 17 years ago, we had the Sonic Gems Collection, which is basically every Sonic game that's canonical to the platforming and stuff. August 11th, 11 years ago, we had Pokemon Rumble Blast. 7 years ago, 2015, we had Goat Simulator. And then 1 year ago, we had
3.
Yep,
That's right. It took them 7 years to make 3, but we skipped 2.
Sure.
Love it.
And then last year, around this time, we had Axiom Verge 2 and Garden Story. Both are great games.
Oh. Wow,
Moving on to August
2 feels like ages ago. Like not just
I
last
know.
year.
It really does. It won a bunch of awards. It's really great.
It's just
But-
coming out. I think it's just coming out on Steam today, by the way, Axiom Verge 2.
Oh, really?
After its Epic
That makes
exclusive, it just
makes
expired.
sense. That makes sense because August 11th is the day that we are actually recording this. So 1 year to the day, we're getting that port. August 12th, 2003, Madden 2004. That's great. 2004 also, or 2004, we got King of Fighters, Maximum Impact. Anyone? Any King of Fighters? No.
You're holding it down for these titles.
Moving on.
Yeah.
These are all games that we've all heard of at least, right? I'm not just
sure.
making these
Heard of
up.
all
So
of them, but
Good. There was a lot more, but I only picked the ones that everyone at home would know. 2008, we had Madden 09. 2009, we had Trials HD. That's a popular one. And then
I fucking miss a Trials.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's good.
2010, we had Puzzle Quest 2. This is the big one. You guys ready for this one? 8 years ago today, PT.
Oh, wow.
Fuck
off.
Crazy.
8
No.
years ago.
Believe
Jareth. 8 years ago. 6 years ago, No Man's Sky for PC came out. And then we had 1 year ago, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, The Siege of Paris. So I guess that must have been DLC for
No, DLC.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Didn't know that existed. And our final date, here we go, is August 13th. Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver came out in 1999, 23 years ago.
Never heard of it.
Legacy of Kain? Really? That's a big one.
No,
think
I'm not
you'd
familiar
like
with
it.
that title.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I think you might
I'll
dig
have
it.
to look it up.
Yeah.
All right.
August 13, 2006, on the PSP, we had Ultimate Ghosts and Goblins, which I'm assuming is a Ghosts and Goblins port for the PSP. 2009, 13 years ago, Madden 10. But more importantly, Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Hell yeah. Still the greatest OST of all video games, except maybe Tony Hawk.
That's a great sentence. I agree. 2009. So that means that it's been 13 years since it got dropped on digital stores, and we haven't gotten another port of it since.
Wow.
I did hear that our Arcade 1-Up just announced the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 cabinet. Yeah. I'm hoping that means we're gonna get a PS5, PC, and maybe hopefully a Xbox and Switch port of it. 2009, 13 years ago. Oh, I already did that one. 2012, we had Darksiders 2 and Sleeping Dogs.
A
Sleeping
fucking
Dogs is the best.
classic. It's so good.
Incredible.
Should not be that good.
Yeah, that was 10 years ago today, on August 13th. 9 years ago, Disney's DuckTales Remastered came out, 2013. Great game if you guys haven't. 9 years ago. Did you guys play that?
Yeah.
No.
No.
Every time you're now saying stuff where like I went to press events for, like I remember going to the Sleeping Dog shit. I was at a Gamescom when PT came out, and now I'm just like, oh, I've been around.
Yeah, you can feel it.
Yeah.
Also, this time we had Payday 2 on all platforms.
Ooh,
9 years ago. It feels like we've just been in the zone of Payday. Payday just keeps getting support. 7 years ago, we had Fallout Shelter, which was a huge mobile game for Bethesda.
7 years ago.
It was 7 years ago.
Yeah.
I did not really play it at all. Then we got 4 years ago, 2018, the Elder Scrolls Online Wolf Hunter. I'm assuming that is a expansion pack to Elder Scrolls Online. 2 years ago, we got Labyrinths of the World, Hearts of the Planet. That's a game I should not have put on this list. I've never heard of it, but there it is. I didn't know it. You guys didn't know it. Maybe you guys at home know it. And finally, 1 year ago, August 13th, 2021, the official release of Hades on PS5, PS4, and of course, who can forget Paw Patrol the movie Adventure City Calls.
Fuck
PS4.
I was waiting for you to get to that one.
That was the one that we all. That's been Fortnite through the years of gaming. Sorry for making you all feel old. I'm actually getting a kick out of it. Every week, I feel like I'm making everyone feel just like a pile of bones.
That should be the catchphrase. Sorry for making you feel old.
You feel old, yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, and on that note, thank you everyone for watching or listening. Remember, you can find us podcast services. You can find us right here on the Skill Up channel. If you are enjoying the show, please rate and review. Thank you to everyone who left comments on the last episode about how much they enjoyed this project.
Oh my god, yes. I was so, can I just say, I was so worried that video would get struck or like for like YouTube's system, as in flagged for bot activity, because there was so many people calling it a project. I'm like, this is a problem now, you know?
No. Thank you.
Shout outs to Tam for holding the fort down without me. Appreciate him.
Yes, definitely.
Yes. So thank you again, everyone. You can find us. Well, I'm Elise James Games. Ralph.
Chill up. You'll find me.
Gerard.
Do the Googling.
Completionist, G4, all that stuff.
And Jake.
At Jake Baldino on GameRanks and on Google. And
Lovely. Jake, can you give us our catchphrase to send us away into
I actually think
night?
we should change it. We should kind of,
because of that weird comment?
No, we should kind of pivot into. Oh yeah, no, we won't acknowledge that.
That's an after hours discussion.
No.
If you're like,
with Gerard's sequence, we should do something like with a look back at time. It's time to look at the sun ahead of us and go to bed or something. There's something deeper we can come up with there. I'm trying. Like as time goes by, as games of past slip away, so does
these are the days of our lives.
This is like those Japanese T-shirts where they just have random English sentences on them that don't make sense. Have you seen these ones? Like, he said it twice, as first as I. Like,
what's the best one? Kill your heroes, be gay, do crime.
Be gay, do crimes.
This is it. We're gonna have to make a Jake catchphrase generator on some website somewhere. You press some buttons and Jake wisdom comes out. I love it. But can I just say I'm personally very attached to tie shoes and go to bed.
Me
I'm gonna be very upset if we start messing with it. That is the rock, the foundation of our upcoming merch line, Jake. So I don't think we want to be messing with that. Come on now.
Right, we've already got the shoelaces printed. We can't do this.
That's right.
All right,
exactly.
Let's do it clean.
Okay.
Send us home, Jake.
Wait, do you reckon it's like Jake with the is it the say the line? Is it that kind of thing? Is it
say the line, Jake.
Say the line.
Jake's on Conan.
This has been Friends Per Second. Tie your shoes and go to bed.